There is a man who appears with every sunset, but outwardly he does not correspond to him at all. This man was pale and cold, so he seemed so transparent, as if he was about to disappear. He seemed not to belong to this time, and he looked like a man who had lost his name. 2 years ago, a lady ran into him in the library in the rays of the setting sun. She still can't forget this meeting. Now, someone is turning to Kate once again. The girl apologizes to Ron and claims that she dozed off a little. Her interlocutor claims that he was afraid that she had another nightmare, to which the lady replies that everything is fine and tells him not to worry. Ron asks if he can definitely not worry and says that's good. He also tells his sweetheart that he will go, and the girl wishes him a good journey. Well, when he leaves, the main character thinks what's wrong with her, after which she lies down on the bed and realizes that she feels sick just from looking at him. Ron Blanc is her current husband, a thoughtful and handsome guy. That's why she still doesn't understand why he married her. He is an assistant to a famous dressmaker, and in fact, he loves her sister Rosaline. The girl looks at the guy's letter to her sister and realizes that he never told her anything like that, and attention always passed her by even her father. I loved Rosalind since childhood, but she never paid attention to me, and there was only one reason for this. Her mother fell into eternal sleep after her birth. The girl then asked her father why her mother didn't wake up. At this time, the main character remembers how she was constantly compared to her sister. Someone claimed that she was a disgrace to the family, and how could he even have such a daughter? If she couldn't do anything, then let her get out. The main character understands that even if she were to fall into eternal sleep, they would not care. Living like this day after day, she met him. The lady realizes that his hair is like snow, but then the book falls out of her hands. The girl immediately comes to her senses and wonders what she is doing because she needs to quickly pick up the book. But when the main character goes down after her, she is a little surprised. After all, he sees how the guy also reaches for the book and then picks it up. And she hands it to the lady. The main character realizes that all she said was, "Thank you." But she also wonders why it was so difficult. That's how she fell in love. After that, she spent 6 months going to the library to meet him again. But she never even looked into his eyes. And that was strange. That his facial expression hardly changed, because it seemed to her that he was always gloomy. The girl thinks what a beautiful voice he has. But one day 6 months later, he didn't come, although he used to come every day. The main character wondered if she would see him today. The guy had been gone for several days, and she was already starting to worry when she suddenly heard a strange story. When she asked one of the people about the guy with silver hair, then her interlocutor replied that this guy had fallen into eternal sleep. The boy with silver hair was named Edwin Arthur Vond, and she learned his name at the funeral. He was a prince and also the son of a king. And on the way to the palace, an accident happened, and the carriage overturned. The funeral was too meager for the prince. The main character, looking at the guy, realizes that he was too beautiful to fall into eternal sleep. The girl also wondered if he knew that she was watching him. But when she looked at him, her heart fluttered. The lady also wondered if he might have simply fallen asleep. On October 5th, 263, her first love left this world. After falling into eternal sleep, Edwina Lady accepted an offer she was about to refuse. Ron promised they would live a wonderful life. Lady realizes he made the proposal to gain the Marquise's support, and she just wanted to leave this disgusting house. This is a marriage without love, and the girl thought that if they just be nice to each other, then everything won't be so bad. But all she got was betrayal. The protagonist wonders if he knows she found Rosalina's letter. The guy started to treat her with disdain every time. She remembered her first love with such nostalgia and pain. The girl thinks that if she had spoken to Edwin, then maybe everything would have been different. The lady closes her eyes and realizes she would very much like to see him again. At that moment, she hears someone asking if she really sleeps like this. This man asks what she is even thinking about, after which he screams at Kate. The girl asks what happened, and her interlocutor is interested. How did she sleep? The main character realizes it's Rosalina, but she thinks, why is this girl there? However, when she looks around, she realizes that this is not their home. The lady also wonders if this is the house that was given to her for her 16th birthday, but she also doesn't understand why she is there. And at the same moment, the sister grabs the girl by the hand. She also claims that she's completely out of her mind and needs to go because her father is looking for her. Kate wonders what happened, and her sister replies that she doesn't know, because all she heard was that they discussed her marriage, and someone decided to marry her. The main character asks what she is talking about, but claims that it was 2 years ago. Her interlocutor asks what kind of nonsense this is, since she is only 18. So how could she get married 2 years ago? A little while later, they are already entering one of the rooms. The main character takes Ron Blanc there and realizes that he looks younger, but it is definitely him. At this time, the man tells Kate to allow her to introduce Ron Blanc. The blonde immediately says that this is their first meeting and he is pleased to meet you. The main character replies that she is glad to meet and also introduces herself, but wonders if this is really their first meeting. The girl realizes that this really does remind her of that meeting 2 years ago. She also wonders if this is a dream and if she has somehow returned to the past. If this is really the past, then now he will say the words that he said on that day. The guy at the same moment states that he wants to get to know the lady better and also to marry her, and the main character understands that all this is identical. The girl thinks it's too real to be a dream. The lady understands that this is really the past and remembers how her interlocutor asked if she really didn't understand anything. He also wondered if this was really all she could do, and the lady was thinking how much she hated him. However, the girl understands that this will not happen again, after which she replies that no, and claims that she does not want to marry him. The guy is a little surprised by this, and the lady's sister asks if she has really gone completely crazy. Ron claims that everything is fine and asks the lady for forgiveness, since he did not intend to impose himself on her. The main character replies that she's sorry too, because she didn't mean to upset him. So the girl wonders why she returned on that very day 2 years ago. Is this to change Ron and save the marriage, or is there another reason? At the same moment, the girl remembers a guy with blonde hair, and he understands that now Edwin is still alive. The lady immediately turns to her father and says that she will leave them first because she needs to go somewhere. The man shouts for her to wait, but the lady does not listen to him and runs away. The girl understands that it is now 4 o'clock, so he should still be in the library, and she does not know why she returned to the past, but she does not care. After all this time, she will not let Edwin fall into eternal sleep. When the girl runs up to the library and opens the door, then she realizes he's definitely alive. The lady immediately apologizes and turns to Edwin. The girl reaches out to his face, and when she touches it, she realizes that it is so warm. The lady with tears in her eyes realizes that he is alive, but her interlocutor at the same moment asks what she is doing and pushes Kate's hand away. After which, he insists that it is all so ridiculous and begins to leave. Kate asks him to wait because they need to talk, but Edwin asks if he knows her at all, after which he affirms it. The lady irritates him, so let him go, because his clothes will get wrinkled. The main character then lets him go and apologizes. The lady also claims that she needs to tell him something, but the guy just leaves. Kate realizes that she expected to see something like this, remembering how he behaved in the past. Well, she didn't know he was so cold. However, the lady understands that such a reaction is quite natural if a stranger suddenly starts stroking your face, and cry on top of that. But she needed to make sure that he was really alive. The girl thinks that if she really did return to the past, then this time she can try to save Edwin. October 3rd, 263, even after a night she is still in the past. The girl realizes that she has actually returned to the moment when Edwin had not yet fallen into eternal sleep. Even if he behaves aloofly, it's good because she can't let him fall into eternal sleep because of such a trifle. The main character understands that she cannot waste a second and needs to go to the library. She has to tell the guy that he can't get into that carriage, and a little while later, she's already wishing him good morning. While the guy is reading, the main character interrupts him by placing her hand on the book. Her interlocutor is a little surprised and asks what she is doing. The girl apologizes for her rudeness and claims that she thought he wouldn't listen to her if she didn't do it. Edwin claims that yesterday she cried when she stroked his face, and today she is bothering him again and saying that she needs to tell him something. He doesn't want to listen to this, so let the lady go. But the main character stops him and claims that she is ashamed of yesterday, but this is really important. Her interlocutor says, so that the crybaby lady would listen to him, why should he listen to some stranger? The girl suggests that he not get into the carriage that is going to the royal palace. Her interlocutor asks what she is talking about, after which the lady asserts that he will fall into eternal sleep if he does not listen to her. The main character also mentally asks him not to leave, after which the guy turns to the lady. But he claims that everyone will one day fall into eternal sleep. The girl is a little surprised, and Edwin says that maybe today or maybe tomorrow, but everyone will meet their end someday. Kate asks what he's talking about and wonders how he can say such a thing when he's being warned about being plunged into eternal sleep. Her interlocutor says that since she has nothing more to say, then he will ask her about it. How did she know that he was heading to the palace? The main character doesn't even know what to answer to this, and her interlocutor claims that she may not answer. He also hopes that she will stop thinking about him because he is not so trusting as to easily succumb to this nonsense. The main character immediately grabs him by the sleeve and claims that she will explain. The girl wonders if he would believe her if she told him that she went back in time 2 years ago, a few days before he fell into a crippling sleep. After he fell into eternal sleep, she felt very sorry for him, and since she had returned in time, then she thought that it would be nice if she could save him. Of course he doesn't believe her, and most likely thinks she's lying, but it's the absolute truth. On the way to the palace, his carriage will overturn, and he will fall into eternal sleep. Her interlocutor then sighs and says, "Okay, it sounds strange, but they will assume that she is telling the truth." Kate immediately thanks him for believing her, but her interlocutor insists that he didn't say he believed her. Then he suggests imagining she's returned to the past, and she decided to save him because she felt sorry, but then, what benefit will Lady Crybaby gain from saving him? The protagonist is a little surprised, and her interlocutor claims that he says this knowing that she will look abnormal, and that is why she is trying to save him. The guy claims that they don't even know each other, and that it's really just a matter of pity. The main character tries to answer something, and her interlocutor asks if she is really that persistent. The girl realizes that after he plunges into eternal sleep, she feels guilty about realizing that she never even tried to talk to him. It lay on her like a heavy burden, but she can't say it out loud. Edwin at this time asks if the crybaby lady is in love with him. The main character is a little surprised by this. Her interlocutor asks if he was right. The girl replies that this is not true, and then the guy asks if she really hates him. Kate replies that this is also not true, and then her interlocutor asks if the only reason she is trying to save him is because she feels guilty. If so, then he can't help her in any way, and he thought that everything would be different if she could understand this. The main character understands that she cannot miss the chance and stands in front of him, and she screams that she won't let her in, and her interlocutor asks if she's at it again, after which he claims that she is in the way and suggests that the lady get out of the way. Kate replies that no way, and then the guy tells her to give a different reason. Why can't he ride in the carriage and let her say, why shouldn't he fall into eternal sleep? The protagonist wonders why this particular man should live. The girl understands that he speaks as if she doesn't care about his life. But if he needs a reason to live, then she will give him a reason, after which the lady claims that she likes him. Why is the young man surprised? And the girl in her thoughts asks him only to live. Kate realizes that this is the first time she has confessed her feelings to someone. Hey! The girl asks if he will listen to her now. Her interlocutor claims that he is so stunned that he doesn't even know what to say. The main character asks what he's talking about, but the couple isn't interested. Does she really think that, because of her confession, he'll say something like, "I'll live for her"? After which he apologizes, but claims that now he only wants to get into that carriage more, and the girl asks if he really wants to get into a carriage that is destined to overturn. Her interlocutor replies that this is so, because he wants to get into that carriage and again plunge into eternal sleep. And he hopes that everyone he cares about will suffer because of this. Kate realizes that she had previously thought that this man was broken from the inside, but the girl also thinks how he became like this. Then the lady says, okay, and she will ask him something. Edwin claims that from now on, if she promises not to disturb his peace, he will answer. Kate wonders what he will gain from his plunge into eternal sleep. And why does he behave like a man who is in a hurry to plunge into eternal sleep? The guy repeats this question and then approaches the lady's ear. And he tells her something and then leaves and asserts. What he answered to her question about this was that she should not catch his eye anymore. A little while later, the main character is lying in bed and thinking about Edwin. The guy claimed that he would get something from his immersion in eternal sleep, salvation, and also a blessing to escape from this idiotic life. Kate wonders if this means he's in so much pain that it's best to fall into eternal sleep. The girl also closes her eyes and thinks about what to do. But when the main character opens them, she thinks, where is she now? She was definitely in her room. The lady also understands that there is nothing there, but at the same moment she hears someone crying. When the girl approaches this place, she understands that this cry belongs to her. After all, it was she at Edwin's funeral. But at that very moment, the lady sees another person standing behind her. The girl asks who he is, and realizes that this man looks like Edwin. Her interlocutor replies that she will soon understand herself, and at that very moment, the girl wakes up. The lady gets out of bed and thinks what kind of man this is, but he suddenly said that she would understand everything herself. But then the lady also thinks that it doesn't matter now, because she doesn't want to see him like this again. The girl got ready and went to the library. There she saw Edwin again. When Kate approached, she addressed him with words about that he couldn't ride in that carriage. The guy calmly replied that he could do whatever he wanted. Kate realized that things were even worse than she had imagined, and she even admitted it. So she must be capable of anything, and asked if Edwin knew what entering eternal sleep meant. She added that after that, he would cease to exist in this world. Edwin reluctantly asked if she had promised not to bother him. Kate looked embarrassed, but asked anyway. Does he have anyone dear to him, such as his pet or things, which he attaches special importance to, and will miss if he doesn't see them again? The prince said he didn't like such things, but Kate decided not to back down, and she asked what about the dream he would like to achieve before he died. Edwin stood up and said that there was nothing in this world that he valued, and there is absolutely nothing else he would want to live for other than that. Kate said with determination in her voice that there was one reason why he needed to live. The guy looked at her in bewilderment, but she said that this was the reason. It's her because she's the girl who loves him, and her name is Kate Gerald. Edwin sighed and asked where she got so much confidence. Because she talks as if he should continue living for the sake of the lady he met 2 days ago. Kate's girlfriend blamed herself very much, because she was bad at communicating and could hardly find the words. But nothing moved him at all, and she didn't understand how she could manage to convince him. While Kate was in her thoughts, she was interrupted by Edwin's voice, asking why she couldn't even look him in the eye. And behind the guy, she suddenly saw the man from the dream. The girl was surprised and asked if it was a ghost. Edwin asked in surprise if she could see him. Kate covered her mouth in horror and asked if he saw it too, and she knew it was true. The prince suddenly approached the girl, grabbed her by the shoulders, and began asking questions with horror. Does she often see things like this? Kate said it was the first time she'd seen it outside of her dreams. Edwin took Kate's hand and told her to come with him. The girl didn't understand what was happening, but the prince said that he would give her an answer to any question she just needed to follow him. In her thoughts, the girl Kate thought about the fact that the Lord himself took her hand, and she blushed deeply. But she suddenly decided that now was not the time to think about such things. The guy was urging her on, tugging hard at her arm. When they arrived at the place and stopped, Edwin asked Kate again. Was this the first time she'd seen something like this? Kate was incredibly nervous and couldn't utter a word. The girl asked him to let go of her hand first. The prince was stunned, released her hand, and asked if she would answer him. Now Kate decided to ask again if he was talking about that thing. The girl who was hovering behind him in the library, upon hearing that she had understood correctly, said that frankly, she still found it hard to believe that she had seen it. Edwin interrupted her, saying that she had said earlier that she had seen them in a dream. Judging by her words, this was not the first time. Kate was very worried and said that she said that because the ghost looked like the person she saw in her dream, and she really saw something like this for the first time. Edwin became thoughtful when he heard that she was seeing him for the first time, and the girl asked, had he seen him before? And the guy decided to ask her what she thought. Why is he telling her this? Kate thought about it and decided to ask him if it was a ghost. What they saw in the library. Edwin said he didn't know what it was either, and he told her to imagine this thing as a ghost. And yet, whatever it is not alive. And he asked her to describe what he looked like, without straining just to describe his appearance. Kate began to describe him. He had hair combed slightly to the side, and he looked about 40 years old, and he looked very much like Edwin. The guy was shocked and asked her if she had seen the ghost's face. Kate was very nervous, so she took a long time to answer, and the guy jumped on her again, with cries of whether she had seen the face of that ghost. But Kate calmed down a little and said that his face looked quite clear. Suddenly, the prince sat down on the floor, saying that everything was useless. Kate started to worry and asked if he was okay, because it was all quite sudden and scary from the outside. Edwin held his head with his hand and said that the ghost was his father, that is, the late king. Edwin said that his father became a ghost and watched over him. Now the girl understood everything because she thought she had seen his face somewhere before, and remembered that as a child I saw Father Edwin at the victory parade. It wasn't that he looked like Edwin. Suddenly, Kate noticed that Edwin was looking strangely into the distance behind her. She turned around and saw that there was something behind her, and there was the ghost of his father. And the girl did not understand, since when he had been haunting her. She heard words that the guy should live. Kate repeated these words out loud. Edwin was surprised and asked what it meant. When the prince heard Kate's answer, that these words were spoken to her by a ghost, he really didn't understand what was happening. Kate asked him if he could somehow explain to her why that ghost was watching him, so that she could help him somehow. Edwin did not accept her words that she could help him, and said that she didn't even have a reason to do it. Kate was silent for a long time. She couldn't say anything, but eventually, she managed to squeeze out the words about it, that she simply did not want to see him suffer, and indignantly lowered her eyes. After thinking, Edwin said that even if she really asked him, he still would not get into that carriage, but in exchange, she had to make a deal with him. Kate listened to him attentively. October 5th was the very date of Edwin's immersion into eternal sleep. The Lord was already approaching the carriage, but suddenly Kate ran up from behind. She held his hand, screaming and telling him what he had promised her. That she wouldn't ride in that carriage. The guy was in complete shock and couldn't understand how she knew and got there. Kate screamed that none of this mattered, since the emphasis now was on the fact that he had promised her that he would not go to jail. The prince asked if she was afraid that he would break their agreement and get into the carriage to fall into eternal sleep. Calling Kate a crybaby lady and a truly caring person, the girl stood in despair, and Edwin said that unfortunately he was also good at keeping his word. And everyone will understand it when the letter is delivered. Kate realized that he simply sent the letter. The carriage began to drive away, and Edwin told her that as she might notice, he didn't get into it, and he really kept his word. Kate was shocked and calmed down a little when she saw that he was next to her and was not going anywhere. Edwin asked Kate why she didn't trust people and how she even knew about that place. Looking at Kate, he noticed that she was crying again and asked what was wrong. For Kate, it was a great relief because he did not fall into eternal sleep and did not complain about it. Edwin thought for a moment and turned away abruptly, saying that he didn't want to see her cry. The guy told her to hurry up and come back, as he had kept his promise. Kate apologized for disturbing him and started to leave. But suddenly, Edwin stopped her. Kate didn't understand what was happening. He pulled her coat over her head, and he said that he didn't want to see her face, even for a moment, and therefore she should cover herself. When Kate looked in his direction, he told her not to make that face, because it looked strange, and he pulled the fabric even further over her face and ordered her to go. Kate began to remember the moment when he said that he would not get into the carriage in exchange for them making a deal with her. The girl was very happy to hear this. Then Edwin again said that she was not serious, because he never understands everything the first time, but he won't repeat himself for her. Edwin saw the girl smiling and said that she was starting to rejoice too early, because this is not something fun, but a deal, and its terms are as follows: that from that moment on, she would transmit the ghost's words. Kate said she would agree if he really didn't get into the carriage. Just in case, the girl decided to ask again whether she should simply convey the ghost's words. Kate looked very happy, and Edwin noticed it. Kate said she was naturally happy because now he wouldn't have to go into eternal sleep. The prince called the girl naive because she thought that he would not die just because he did not get into the carriage. Because all predetermined events will happen sooner or later, and one way or another, no one can escape their destiny. Kate's face changed dramatically, and she asked if he would go into eternal sleep anyway. Edwin asked her with a serious face if she would believe him if he told her this. The girl said with joy on her face that she would believe him because he believed her and promised not to get into that carriage. The prince merely snorted and replied that he didn't believe her, that it was getting dark, and that he needed to go. So next time they could talk about the ghost. In the morning, Kate noticed that she had overslept and was simply too relaxed because of it, that Edwin didn't get into an accident. And just like that, she passed out. Kate was glad that she had taken a step closer to Edwin's trust and decided to hurry to the library before she was late. Kate was about to leave, but she noticed a guy at the door. Looking at him, the girl realized it was Ron. The guy greeted her. Kate never expected to meet him like this. Ron Blank apologized for barging in, but he justified it all by saying what he thought. She already knew he'd come uninvited. Kate asked the reason for his visit. The guy said that the Marquis had ordered a dress for Lady Kate on the occasion of her 19th birthday. Hearing this, Kate herself began to think that her birthday was approaching. She began to briefly remember her birthdays. And of course, she still received gifts. But they meant nothing to her, Ron. Blank noticed that the girl had turned pale and began to worry. Ron apologized because he thought it was all because of his suggestion. And since he didn't want to create reasons for such a lady to worry, he continued to apologize, although it wasn't only because of that. Kate calmly told him that everything was fine, and they need to get down to business quickly, because she needs to leave soon. Ron said he'd take up a little of her time. The man began taking measurements for the future dress. Kate knew that Ron had married her only to expand his boutique. That's why he was so persistent. Even though the girl no longer loved him, Kate remembered looking at Ron with embarrassment, and the guy smiling, asking what was wrong with him, because she was looking at him strangely. Ron told Kate that everything was ready, and he would take her to the mansion in 2 days, and then they would see each other. The girl had no reason to get closer to him this time, simply because he was the reason for her happiness, and she wanted everyone to have only a happy future ahead of them. The time had already come, and Kate needed to get ready as quickly as possible and hurry to the library. The girl didn't know that all these measurements would take so much time, and she was very curious whether Edwin had already arrived. When Kate arrived at the place, she didn't see the guy there and realized that she was late. Seeing a book on the windowsill, she came closer and looked, realizing that it was Edwin's book, and it was very strange that he had forgotten it. The Cyclic Sequence is a novel that tells the tragic love story of Arthur and Bella. Bella picked up the pocket knife and brought it to her wrist without hesitation. She had only one goal. She had to cut her wrist with a knife. She wasn't afraid, she was more afraid of a future without him. At the beginning of the novel, immediately after the protagonist, Arthur falls into eternal sleep, his beloved tries to follow him into the afterlife. And in the process, Arthur appears to her in a ghostly form and says that she must definitely live. It was all a terrible coincidence with what Kate had dreamed. Bella, who was about to fall into eternal sleep after losing her lover and Edwin, who seeks his salvation in plunging into eternal sleep, and the ghost trying to save them, who says that Edwin must live. And even if this world is a novel, then Kate is just a minor character passing by. Edwin was sitting in the park reading his book. Kate approached the guy and said that yesterday she was busy and couldn't come to the library. The prince ordered her to leave because he had nothing to talk about with a liar who couldn't even keep her promise. Kate was surprised when she heard something about a promise and asked what he was talking about. The guy said that he told her that he wanted to talk to her next time. Edwin says that the carriage left on the 5th, and today is the 7th, and quite a lot of time has passed. Kate asked, her expression surprised, if he was talking about waiting for her yesterday. Edwin's face was filled with horror. The prince was a little surprised, and then arrogantly said that she was crazy if she thought so. He didn't need to do this. He was just really annoyed that she didn't keep her word. Kate apologized because she didn't know it was a promise. The Lord said he would forgive her, but only once, and Kate suddenly pointed to his book. And she said that when she read it yesterday, she noticed that the main character was very similar to him, and asked if that was why he still read her. The guy sighed heavily and said that Lady Crybaby always asks a lot of questions. Edwin said that the book was the man's favorite work until he fell into eternal sleep. Kate asked if he meant his father. By that man, Edwin confirmed it. Edwin's father. His favorite book before he fell into eternal sleep was The Cyclic Sequence. Kate said that if this was the late king's favorite book, then maybe it was the key to the mystery. Edwin was stunned, and Kate said that their situation was out of the ordinary, and that it was quite strange, that the book's content mirrored what was happening. Edwin said she couldn't delve into it, because no one allowed her to, and in fact, he only asked her to convey what the ghost said. He asked her to forget everything and said that he was leaving, but it looked like the ghost would appear today. Kate tried to stop him by grabbing his sleeve and pointing her hand at the ghost, but he only said 2 words and disappeared into thin air. Edwin began asking the girl what the ghost had said. He even grabbed her. It was the first time Kate had seen that expression on his face. The girl said she would tell him, but in exchange, she asked him to study the book with her for the rest of the day. Kate begged Edwin to study the book with her. Her mind was filled with fear, because she thought she'd just said complete nonsense. She thought she'd just asked him out on a date. The ghost was still standing next to them and watching what was happening. This was very embarrassing for Kate because she considered it very shameful. And not only Edwin, but also his ghost dad heard it. Edwin turned to Lady Crybaby and said that she considered him some kind of joke because she threatens him with the words of a ghost. Kate apologized for her tactlessness, but Kate was very keen to study the book and said that if they thought about it together, they'd be able to find a solution to the problem plaguing them, so she wanted to help Edwin clutched his head in his hands. But in the end, he told her to follow him. The girl walked with the thought that this was a very unreasonable request. Edwin suddenly asked where it was. Kate, not understanding what he was asking, asked again. And Edwin said that he was asking about the place where she wanted to go to study the book. And he asked her to go there and he would follow her. Kate said sheepishly that she didn't have a specific place. To all this, Edwin simply told her to follow him since he had a place. "Where can I look for documents?" The prince walked very quickly, so the girl had to run after him. After a long search with the Lord, Kate decided to suggest discussing everything they'd found over a cup of aromatic drink in the cafe. Edwin reluctantly agreed. As they sat in the cafe, the girl told him that she did not expect the Lord himself to accept her request. He responded that it was a threat, not a request. Kate joked that it was a threat for no other reason than that. What did he say? Edwin didn't want to fall for threats that had obvious ulterior motives, but he needed to know what his father said, and there were simply no other reasons. So the crybaby lady shouldn't be making up scenarios in her head. Kate decided to ask if he knew her name. Lord said confidently that he didn't. The girl replied that she knew his full name, Edwin Arthur Windsor. The prince was not surprised, because it was natural that she knew him. After all, he was the last specimen for me, and he himself was the son of the king. Edwin asked how she could compare them when everyone in the kingdom knew him. Kate agreed and said that her name still meant a lot to her. After these words, the Lord called her Katie. The girl was surprised to hear this, and he said that this is the name of the crybaby lady, and looked away. Kate said it was okay if he got her name slightly wrong. Suddenly, Kate was overcome with memories of running to her grandmother, and she calls her kitten and hugs her granddaughter, and then offers her cookies, which the girl ate quite rarely. The girl was happy but afraid to eat it because her father ordered her not to. Grandma had long since left their family, but Grandma Kate was the only person left, who gave Kate love in childhood and did not reject her in any way like the rest of her family. When the grandmother was on the verge of falling into eternal sleep, she apologized to the girl for leaving her there alone. Her granddaughter cried bitterly, and her grandmother called her Katie for the last time and called her favorite kitten. She held the girl's hand and closed her eyes. In a world where her grandmother no longer existed, Kate didn't expect to hear that nickname again and started crying because she never even thought about it, that he would ever hear it again and not from his grandmother. The Lord looked at all this and asked if she burst into tears because he had pronounced her name incorrectly. The girl apologized, her voice trembling. It was hard for her to speak because her grandmother meant everything to her, and the memories were killing her. Kate said she was crying because someone very dear to her in the past had called her that. Edwin asked her to stop because he was tired of her tears. Kate apologized, and the prince said he was tired not only of her tears, but also of her apologies, because she apologized constantly, and it made him uncomfortable. Kate noticed that the guy hesitated, but suddenly remembered what she hadn't yet told him about the words she heard from the ghost. When she started talking about them, Edwin was completely concentrated. It was the only topic of conversation that had his full attention. Kate's girlfriend said that his father definitely said, "I'm sorry," and the girl started crying again. The prince was shocked that she started crying so often. Without any reason, Kate apologized and said that his look was very similar to the one she had seen the last time they apologized to those they had to leave behind. Suddenly, the guy came up to Kate and started wiping away her tears. The only justification for all this was that he hated to see tears. The girl thanked Edwin, to which he replied that he did not do it for her gratitude, but the girl was still grateful to him for his concern. Edwin said that it was late, and they had finished all their business, so the lady needed to hurry and return home. Edwin started to leave, But Kate stopped him, asking when she could return the handkerchief he had used to wipe her tears. The prince ordered her to simply throw it away because he no longer needed it. Kate wondered how possible it might be to have recurring dreams, because people usually say that dreams are nothing more than the embodiment of useless thoughts. But if they are so similar, can useless thoughts be combined and gain that same meaning? Edwin's father came up to Kate from behind and asked for forgiveness again. The memories that flooded the girl were again connected with her grandmother, who had fallen into eternal sleep and asked for forgiveness for forcing her to do it herself. Grandmother looked very much like Father Edwin when she was dying and asking for forgiveness. The boy in the dream was crying, and Kate, looking at him, thought that it could be little Edwin. The girl assumed that she was at the funeral of the deceased king. Suddenly, the man who was standing behind Kate, that is Edwin's father, called out to the girl and pointed his hand at his son, asking her to grant him salvation. The king began to turn into flowers that flew in the air. Suddenly, Kate woke up and decided that she had to make this rescue happen. Because of the dream, Kate wanted to go see Edwin right then, but they hadn't agreed on anything today. And lately, she has been constantly bothering him, so if she continues to get on his nerves today, he will get very angry. Suddenly, she heard the door slam and called for entry. When she saw who was entering the room, she understood that Ron had arrived with her dress, and she had a promise to keep. Ron Blank greeted Kate and handed her the dress. Asking if she would like to try it on, Kate agreed and went to change. When the girl got dressed, he came out and asked if she looked okay, because she doesn't usually wear things like that. Ron was speechless when he saw such beauty. The girl said it was a bit over the top. Ron stared at her, and Kate couldn't tell if she looked strange or if there was something ugly about her. But Ron stood up and walked over to Kate and took her hand and kissed it and said that my lady looked beautiful in that dress. Looking away, Kate thanked him, but she felt rather stuffy there. Kate started saying something about him delivering her the dress and wanted to tell him he could go. But suddenly, Perrin squeezed her hand very hard, and Kate didn't understand what was going on because he was looking at her very strangely. Ron apologized and said he just thought he saw a thread sticking out of his sleeve. And that was pretty rude of him, so if she doesn't mind, he can fix that now. And it'll take a little time. Ron quickly picked up a needle and began to correct his work. Kate wondered what he was even thinking about, even if he was very attentive to his work. It was surprising, but this had happened a couple of times in the past. And if Ron found the slightest flaw in the clothes he had worked so hard to create, he would correct it right there and then. But he was quite clumsy and often got hurt. And right now, Ron was being clumsy too, and Kate said she told him to use a thimble. Even if it really irritates him, Ron was surprised and asked what she was talking about. The girl realized that she had said too much, since they were not married, and he did not know anything about the thimble from the future. Kate quickly apologized and said she just thought he might get hurt. Kate couldn't mix memories from this life with the past. My lady added that she didn't want him to feel uncomfortable just because of the dress. Ron calmly said that he wasn't upset at all. He just thought it looked really cute that Lady was worried about him. Kate found it strange to hear this because of all the people in the world he found her to be cute. And when she worried about him, Ron would tell her that she couldn't know something better than him. And every time it would be the same. Ron finished his business and asked if she would invite him to the celebratory banquet, because he really wanted to see the beautiful lady dance in the dress he had made. When Kate thought about what he had done, she wanted to refuse. But now she had no reason to refuse. He and the Ron she knew might have been different, but she couldn't forget everything and get closer to him. Ron thanked her. Kate didn't understand what he was thanking her for at all and sighed heavily. The guy asked again if she was okay and thought that perhaps he was putting too much pressure on the girl with his sudden proposals. Kate sat down and said she just felt a little dizzy and she needs to sit down now Ron said he was leaving, and asked that the lady try to get a good rest and recover before her birthday. Kate had a serious headache since the morning, as if she had forgotten something. She recalled her dream and the look she'd made with someone there. She called out to Ron and asked if he knew anything about Lord Edwin. The guy stopped at the door and asked again if she was talking about that same abandoned prince. Kate was very surprised when she heard him called the abandoned prince, and Ron asked if this was the first time she had heard this story, since it seemed like everyone knew about it, because it was a big deal and it was quite unpleasant. Kate was very worried when she heard this, but she told Ron that she was hearing about it for the first time, and she didn't know anything about such a situation. Kate asked Ron if he was talking about Prince Edwin being abandoned once the previous king went into eternal sleep. Ron asked the girl to calm down and promised to answer all her questions, asking her not to worry. The main character couldn't even imagine that she spent almost all her time at home until she met the prince. No one had ever told her about such a thing, not even after he fell into eternal sleep when she learned that Edwin was a prince. She never tried to find out more about him. For Kate, her lover wasn't Prince Edwin, but Edwin from the library. But now, since she had decided to help him, she needed to know the reason for it. Why was the throne that should have belonged to Edwin simply given to someone else? Ron began his story by explaining that when Prince Edwin was a child, the now deceased King Windsor suddenly fell into an eternal sleep and the country fell into decline. But then someone appeared who could calm the chaos. His name was Benson Windsor. He was the younger brother of the late King Licht, and now the reigning king. Kate asked why this happened, since the throne should have passed to his son Edwin by inheritance, despite the fact that he was small. Ron said that they all couldn't have known such information, and perhaps it's all about Edwin's unpleasant character, as they say that before starting a dialogue, he always sighs heavily. And even the conservatives, who wanted to put him on the throne, eventually turned away from him, and he was left alone. Now Kate understood how others saw Edwin from the outside. Ron said there were probably other reasons, and the current King Benson has always been talented in politics. After his accession to the throne and the change in political course, people appeared who began to praise him as a saint. Kate didn't understand why he sent his nephew away, and why he was nicknamed the abandoned prince, after Benson became king, the late king's wife. Or in other words, Prince Edwin's mother, the Queen, proposed to Benson and became his wife, despite the condemnation. Kate was shocked to hear that Prince Edwin's mother had married his uncle. Ron couldn't understand how she didn't know about it, as there was a big scandal about it. And many disliked the Queen because she married immediately after her previous husband had fallen into eternal sleep, without even observing any mourning. The prince came here after their wedding, and it seemed that he was driven out from there, which is why he was nicknamed the abandoned prince. Kate found it very unpleasant to hear this, and she could not even imagine that this could happen to her lover. After an awkward silence, Ron asked why Kate was interested in this story. The girl replied that she saw Prince Edwin in the library and became interested in his story. Looking at his watch, Ron said that it was time for him to go, and he left wishing her a good rest. Kate thanked him for his story, and when he left, all she could think about was the abandoned prince, and why she hadn't tried to get to know Edwin better. Edwin was left alone after King Licht fell into eternal sleep with no one to support him. This was probably why the late king wanted to apologize to him when he appeared to Kate. If so, why could she see him too? A little while later, there was another knock on the girl's door, and it was the maid who spoke. That she had washed her handkerchief as the mistress had asked Kate, thanked her, and the maid left. Edwin told Kate to get rid of the scarf, but she didn't dare do it after all the events. The lady hugged the scarf to herself, smiling and closing her eyes. Looking at the scarf, Kate noticed the ED patch. Kate returned to the library and greeted my lord. He asked her to leave as she was really annoying him. Kate noted that he hadn't changed and asked him to look at her face. The prince asked what kind of expression she had on her face and whether she liked it when she was driven away, and people said things like that. Embarrassed, Kate said she had come to return his handkerchief. Edwin continued to say that he ordered her to throw it away and asked her not to make him do it again. The girl brought the handkerchief closer to the prince and asked if he cared about it. Edwin only laughed and asked how she had come to that conclusion. Kate pointed to the embroidery and said it said Eddie, adding that she thought it must have been something important to him. Edwin was flooded with memories of his mother wiping okroshka from his mouth. With that same handkerchief, this story was extremely unpleasant for the prince, and the guy stood up abruptly, shouting that he no longer needed this thing, tightly squeezing the handkerchief in his hand. The prince no longer needed the item, so he turned away, and Kate asked, "Can she take this handkerchief?" Edwin turned back and said that she can throw it away or keep it, and it makes no difference to him, since he is not interested in things that no longer belong to him. Kate turned to the lord, which made him very angry, because she always distracted Izzy, but the girl simply covered his mouth and apologized. The main character said the library was crowded and he should keep his voice down. Edwin whispered to her what she wanted to tell him. Kate couldn't say anything, because she had no reason to come to him. But suddenly, she remembered that the day before yesterday, Edwin said that they needed to talk about the ghost. And she wondered why he hadn't agreed on anything with her. She felt very uncomfortable talking about it. Edwin asked with disdain if she had distracted him, simply because she was curious to know about something like that. Kate was confused and said she thought she wanted to quickly come up with a detailed plan with him. The prince said he understood the reason, even if they had agreed to meet. If we're talking about a girl who's in love with him, and it's clear that it's normal for her to come to him whenever she wants. Kate was embarrassed because he remembered her words about being in love. The Lord looked at the girl intently and asked if they had met the crybaby lady before. Kate hoped that maybe he remembered Edwin usually didn't forget people he knew, but this time he didn't know when, but he remembered how they exchanged glances like that. Kate confirmed his words and said that he removed her hand, although it was only once, and asked him to move away. The guy said that, of course, he remembers her, because he was there then. Before he could finish his sentence, he heard Kate say that he had noticed her because the late king was standing next to her at the time. He asked if she had only just found out about it, and if she could have seen his father as a ghost before. Kate said she only started seeing ghosts after she went back in time, and this is actually the first time she's seen him like that. Edwin confirmed that she had already said something similar, that she had started seeing ghosts from that moment. How she returned to the past 2 years ago and asked what was wrong with her face. Kate was very happy that he believed her, but the guy upset her again, saying that there are things in the world which cannot be explained by simple logic, and it cannot explain it rationally. Suddenly, a ghost appeared, and the girl asked the prince why he had called her a liar before, and did not believe her. When Edwin noticed the ghost, he told her not to talk to him, and added that he now trusted her completely. Therefore, she can ask fewer questions and be calm. This time, the ghost simply laughed with joy and showed the letter with his hands, after which the man extended his hand to Edwin and said the word forgiveness, after which he began to dissolve. The prince asked what he had said this time, and the girl became shy and said that tomorrow was her birthday, and if he came to the celebratory ball, Kate would convey to him the late king's words. Kate handed him her letter of invitation. Edwin looked at her very strangely, but the girl understood that it was his father who had pushed her to do this. He snatched the letter from her hands and said that conditional deals were terrible. Kate apologized and said she wouldn't do it again. Edwin looked at Kate and said that he asked her not to make that expression. Rosalina was always like a party girl and enjoyed Kate's party as if it were her own. If she planned to do this, then why she nominated Kate was unclear. And suddenly, the girl remembered the invitation she had given to the prince and wondered if Edwin would show up. The hall was full of people, and Kate stood on the balcony and looked into the distance. Suddenly, she heard someone telling her that she looked very tired. Turning back, she expected to see Edwin there. But unfortunately, when Kate turned around, it was not Edwin who was there, but Ron, who greeted her with a gift in his hands. Kate was very surprised when she saw it. Ron Blank asked if the lady was okay, and why she was standing there alone. Realizing that Edwin probably wouldn't come after all, Kate grew sad. She told Ron she was just a little tired. Ron apologized for being late, but wanted to sincerely congratulate her. Happy 19th birthday, and presented her with his gift, which he wanted to give to Kate personally. Kate thanked him, and Ron said that he was a little late, meaning that he needed to finish something. But before he could finish, Ron started coughing. When Kate saw him coughing, she instinctively told him that he could easily get sick and asked why he wasn't wearing a scarf. Ron didn't understand, and asked again what she meant. Suddenly, she realized that she had made a mistake because she could not act as if she knew him well. Ron asked if he had ever told her about his cough, and my lady said that of course she remembered everything, and the guy called her a very kind and caring girl. Ron came closer to Kate and said with a smile that the moment he first met her before he could finish speaking, they were interrupted by Edwin, who appeared between them and asked what kind of festive banquet this was. Kate was very scared when she saw this. Grabbing the girl's hand, Edwin asked, "Is it true that this is her festive banquet, since she is standing on the balcony and not in the hall with the guests?" He started to say something about Ron, but told her to forget about it, looking menacingly in Ron's direction. In any case, the prince was looking for Kate, because she herself told Edwin to come, and he added that she had no manners since she had not met him. Kate apologized to the prince because she didn't think he'd actually come. Edwin, as usual, cut her off and said he hadn't come for her. He whispered that he was simply curious to know what his father had said. The girl's mood changed dramatically, and she felt a sense of relief. Kate smiled again, and Edwin repeated once again that she shouldn't make that face. Because it really irritates him, Ron didn't expect to see His Majesty there. But the prince replied that he did not want to see the tailor here either. Kate was surprised they knew each other. Ron explained that they'd just happened to be casual acquaintances, because he had made clothes for the prince several times, and in any case, he did not know that Edwin knew the lady. My lord said they weren't close, and she shouldn't be imagining things in her head. At the same moment, someone else said that the prince's relationship with Kate was quite a surprise to her. Suddenly, Rosaline joined them and introduced herself to the prince, saying that it was a great honor for her to meet him, and giving her name. Edwin simply asked who she was, and the girl smiled and said that she was Kate's older sister, and it would be nice if he first contacted their family and then they could formally accept him. The main character understood that this was happening again, but at that very moment, the prince ordered her to leave him alone because he had nothing to discuss with her, and her sister, Rosalind, was in complete shock and didn't understand her reaction. But suddenly, Edwin said that none of this mattered, and taking Kate by the hand, ordered her to follow him affectionately, calling the girl Cat Lady. They needed to discuss something face to face, and Kate was still in complete shock from the guy calling her a cat. She confirmed that they should talk away from everyone, and they moved away. When they had walked far enough, Edwin asked again why she was making a strange expression on her face. And when she began to explain, he asked her to stop, because even without her words, it was clear that these were her strange thoughts again, and clearly something unimportant. Kate had always found Edwin attractive, but in a formal suit, he looked even more handsome. While Kate admired him, the guy asked why she was silent. Kate honestly didn't understand what he wanted from her, and asked, and Edwin reminded her why they had left. Edwin told her that she should tell him what her father said, because she said to come to her party if he wanted to hear it. Kate began to say that the late king had told her, addressing him, "Forgive me," and was not sure what he wanted and told him to do something. The boy was furious and shouted that his father wanted him to forgive him, and he is sure that his father is watching him from somewhere and must listen to him carefully. Edwin shouted that since the day the king had fallen into eternal sleep, he had never lived a normal life, and it was his father who had sent him to that prison. When Kate heard all this, she was stunned and assumed that all this was visible because of the late king. Edwin fell to his knees and asked why his father kept appearing before his eyes, and asked if it was he who had told about his son, and ordered Kate not to let him get into that carriage, and did not understand why his father was now trying to save him from falling into eternal sleep. The prince did not understand why his father did not abandon him to die from the very beginning, because he knew that no matter what, Edwin would die again and again, endlessly. No matter what, Edwin would die again and again, endlessly. Kate asked the Lord to wait, and I asked him what he meant. The guy with a hysterical smile said it looked like a ghost, but didn't say anything. And everything is as he said, and Kate heard correctly that he continues to die over and over again. Edwin continues to say that if she thinks that the incident with the carriage is the end of it, then that is not so. If Edwin avoids the carriage incident, he will only experience more terrifying plunges into eternal sleep, endlessly repeating his 18-year-old life experience. Kate asked him to tell her more details. Edwin said it was all complicated, and that they had quite a long story ahead of them. Edwin turned to Richard and said it was him. Richard greeted the Lord and asked, could the girl standing next to him be his lover? The prince started yelling at Richard and saying that it was not at all, as he thought that his prince had found a new lover, so he decided to ask. And if the misunderstanding is resolved, then he asks them to go inside. Edwin came in, and a man named Richard told the girl that he had been wondering why the Lord had left so tense, and now he understands that it was all because of the meeting with the lady. And if she didn't mind, he'd like to know her name. The girl remembered that she hadn't even introduced herself. She gave her name, Kate Gerald. Richard said it was a great honor to meet her. With Lord Edwin's girlfriend Kate was shocked by this turn of events, and suddenly, Edwin walked in, telling them to stop chatting and go into the hall. Richard said that he was making tea for them and hoped that they would have a pleasant time together. Edwin looked at him with disdain, and the girl tried to explain that everything was not as he thought. But Richard didn't care. Kate was very uncomfortable with Richard's jokes, and the prince had a serious expression on his face. Kate noticed that Edwin had indeed returned to the past, just as if it was because of this that he had fallen into eternal sleep many times. And Kate understood how helpless he felt, knowing that he had to move straight towards his descent into eternal sleep. Suddenly, Edwin asked Lady Crybaby what she was thinking about as she was sitting very quietly and staring into space. Kate replied that she wasn't thinking about anything and was simply lost in her thoughts. Edwin was very bored and asked Kate to first tell him everything she knew about him. Kate was very slightly nervous and said that all she knew was that he would fall into an eternal sleep in the carriage. The prince was surprised when he heard that she knew only this, because he believed that she knew much more since she could hear the speech of a ghost. After that, Kate kept saying that she wanted to know more about him, and Edwin said that he needed to make sure of something. Before starting his story, Kate was curious about what it was about, and Edwin began his story. The first thing was that she couldn't interfere in his life, just because she knew about his situation, so she should live without useless interference. And the second thing is that he's not telling her everything because he has any feelings for hers, so she shouldn't misunderstand him, Kate asked again, and he said that she shouldn't make anything up for herself, so that strange misunderstandings don't arise, and also shouldn't listen to Richard. Kate said she promised to stick to the rules, and Edwin began his story. As he said before, he is reliving his 18th birthday from the very beginning, and the first was falling into his father's eternal sleep. After the king's eternal sleep and his existence, he was like some kind of lifeless rat. He came to this city as if someone was chasing him. Several years later, the palace sent a carriage inviting Edwin to attend an event. Without any suspicion, he climbed into it, but somehow he also sank into eternal sleep. So the carriage got into a major accident, and he began to lose consciousness, and felt the end creeping towards him, and so in vain he sank into eternal sleep. But when Edwin opened his eyes, he was back a week before he got into the carriage. The guy told Lady Crybaby that this was the reason why he wasn't surprised by her words. After all, he'd experienced this too. Kate noticed that everything had been the same, and she and Edwin had returned in the same way. From then on, he began to see that ghost that is his father. He was a white translucent figure. At that moment, Edwin's father called him by name, and the prince truly believed that it was his father. Kate interrupted Edwin and said that he asked her to convey his words, because he himself could not hear his speech. And here he was, talking about how he heard his father's voice. Edwin said that at first he heard his father, but now he can't make out anything at all. His vision is blurry. With each return, the figures and voices became weaker, and now he can't listen to his father at all. Kate said that if Edwin came back often, it meant he confirmed, and said that if he avoided the carriage, he is plunged into eternal sleep by poison, and if not by poison, then his end comes from something else. This would be his 10th plunge into eternal sleep, as this is already the 9th time that this autumn has repeated itself. Kate couldn't understand how something like this could happen. So many times Edwin was falling into eternal sleep again and again. Kate decided to ask him if there were any possible explanations that came to mind. Edwin, after some thought, said that his possible explanation was that something had been bothering him lately, and Kate asked what it was. In response, she saw him pointing his finger at her and saying that this was Lady Crybaby, who had returned to the past at the moment when he was alive. The sequence in which Edwin returned was inexplicable. The prince asked if Kate thought his situation resembled the contents of this book. The guy said that he thought the same thing at first, because he had read it many times. And he read again and again, believing that there might be a clue to his situation. His 9th regression was due to the fact that he read it many times, and when he read it, it was simply out of habit. Kate went back in time to when he was alive. Kate often thought about this, and why she returned to the place where he was still alive. Although he was a special person to her, for him, she was perhaps nothing more than another observer. The prince finished his story and said that the fact that Kate could see the ghost of his father was quite strange. Moreover, she used the ghost as an excuse to prevent his death. Kate said she just felt sorry for him and that she loved Edwin. Lord Sam said that. Kate was very embarrassed and surprised that he remembered it. It was love, and people were capable of so much for it. Richard came and said he brought tea. Richard said he thought about it when he found out about it. Edwin didn't understand what he was talking about and asked him again. Richard decided to ask if it wasn't His Majesty who had sent away the carriage that had arrived a couple of days earlier. To this, Edwin said that he simply did not want to go, then and there was no problem with that. Richard asked if Edwin had sent anything in that carriage because he had just received a message from the palace, and the event that was supposed to be at the palace, and which he was going to attend, was cancelled. The prince was very surprised and asked why, and Richard said that he guessed that his lord had sent the carriage away in advance, knowing this. After hearing all this, Edwin said that Richard could go about his business. Kate asked what happened, and the guy was in thought, and then said that everything had changed, because even if there was no accident with the carriage, the event itself was never cancelled. And if such small, useless things come together, then the situation has changed for the first time. And won't they get their own meaning because she intervened? He didn't see how else it could affect him, and Kate asked if they could change it. Just like the event was cancelled, they couldn't know for sure if they would send him now. Edwin jumped up and said that he had warned her not to forget her place and not to try to interfere in his life. Kate apologized sympathetically for saying such inappropriate things, but this time there really could have been a change. Edwin asked, confused, if she thought he would allow the immersion into eternal sleep to happen because he wanted it. And initially, he tried very hard to avoid them. Each time he promised himself that he would survive. The next time, he also promised himself that he would survive, and this was repeated endlessly. Just by thinking about Edwin, such an ordinary shy, Kate was able to become brave now too. That's why this time she wants to be his strength. Kate said that this time Edwin isn't alone because he has her. The guy was shocked, and the girl added that he had nothing to lose. Because how can they know if the poisoning will change with her intervention? Edwin kept saying it was stupid, but he agreed, and she talked him into it. For the first time, the guy smiled, and the girl asked if she could come again tomorrow, because she wants to discuss his poisoning in detail, and she will also look for this information. Kate decided that this was a good reason to start looking for materials on poisons. But there could be so many different kinds of poisonous creatures in this world that she could get very confused, because everyone is always trying to get rid of each other. During the night, Kate checked everything and realized that, at this rate, she would be late. She decided to start getting ready, but noticed the gift Ron had given her for her birthday, and she decided that she should probably at least open it. When Kate opened it, T saw a luxurious blue dress there. Kate remembered what Ron had said earlier, all the words about him being a little late, because he was finishing something, and before he finished speaking, he started coughing heavily. Holding the dress in her hands, Kate noticed that it was very soft. Ron clearly used high-quality fabrics and put a lot of effort into this gift. The main character assumed that he liked her, even if Ron's tender look was sincere. But even if it really was love, once she still doesn't believe it after what happened. Kate greeted Richard and again tried to say that she was my lord's girl. But Kate became embarrassed and asked him not to say that. After she and Edwin decided to try to prevent the poisoning, the first step for Kate and the prince was to identify the possible culprit. Many poisoning attempts were accidental, and any ingestion could spell doom. Edwin could fall into eternal sleep from even a small cut, and it even happened that he plunged into eternal sleep covered in red liquid, and thought that this time they would stop, but everything continued. Kate asked if there was any point in drinking the tea that Richard brought, because it could be poisoned. Edwin said the poisoning happened at a time when he least expected it, and there is a high probability that the suspect knows him, and that is why he considered Richard to be the main suspect. Richard served Edwin in the palace, and even here he continues to serve him, but he said that if Richard were really a criminal, then Edwin would have fallen into eternal sleep much earlier, and he would have been quickly crossed off the list of suspects. The prince said that Richard was just a cunning old man who always liked to overdo everything, as in the situation with her. Kate went to see my lord, and he asked her to sit down. The girl understood that he was the man who wouldn't let her live alone, and he has easy access to Edwin, and she understood that they could not say that Richard's fate was impossible. Suddenly, Mary knocked on the door, and then Kate remembered that the second prime suspect was, besides Richard, it was the prince's maid, Mary. When she came in, she said she'd heard her master had guests, so she'd brought refreshments. Mary, who served Edwin at the palace, was the prince's chief servant, and Kate heard that she was now in charge of the kitchen. But the gentleman said that in addition to these two suspects, it is not excluded that there could be a third person, since the villains are constantly changing. Based on Edwin's research on the poisons used for poisoning, not all of them are so easily obtained, and they all used incredibly expensive poisons, the cost of which was determined by bids at auctions. Edwin asked if Kate thought one person could get hold of something like an exclusive poison so easily. The girl thought he meant the attacker might be from outside Edwin himself, didn't know this, and said it was just his guess. And if that wasn't the case, they would still have to save up money for a long time, just to put him into eternal sleep. Edwin said such things so calmly that Kate even felt creepy about it. But now it was important for them to find out the person behind all this. And they need to find out who directly poisoned Edwin. Turning toward the prince, Kate noticed that he was drinking the tea Mary had brought. Kate screamed and asked what he was doing, and Milord calmly said that he was just drinking tea. Kate pleaded with a trembling voice that she just needed to know what he was going to do, because it could cause him to be poisoned. The prince said that he would simply fall into eternal sleep if it was destined, because this had happened more than once. Edwin talked about going into eternal sleep, and Kate assured him that he couldn't say all this so carelessly, because they are in this together, and they have already decided this, and Kate asked for it at the same time, so that he would consult with her before doing anything, or at least just think about the consequences. The guy said he would think about it. Kate decided to drink some tea too, and took the mug in her hands, but Edwin ran up to her, and he knocked the mug out of her hands, saying that no one allowed her to drink tea, and if he does it, that doesn't mean Kate can have it too. The main character simply thought everything would be fine, since Edwin had already drunk it. Kate noticed the remains of tea on the prince's face, and wanted to remove them, but Edwin said that it was late and she should go home. Kate thought that maybe she had done something wrong, because he had gotten so angry just because she wanted to drink tea. The tea he calmly drank himself. Kate didn't understand what to do if he didn't want to see her anymore, and how to handle this situation. While she was thinking about all this, she noticed that she had reached the city center and saw Ron's store. Looking through his window, the lady wondered why Richard was in the boutique with him. Kate didn't understand how it happened that Richard and Ron were together. Suddenly, Ron noticed the girl open the door and asked what brought her here. Kate lied that she was very worried that last time on her birthday, she suddenly left and didn't even say goodbye. Ron invited her in for a cup of tea. She said everything was fine, and it looked like he already had company, so it would be redundant. But Ron said he thought so, that the guest wouldn't mind her presence. Ron immediately said he was lonely. After she dumped him that day and Kate apologized, the main character clearly didn't expect any of this. When they entered the boutique, Ron asked Kate what tea she preferred. She replied that black tea was fine, and she began to wait for Ron, who left her with Richard. Richard was glad to see the lady and greeted her. Kate noticed briefly that he had a suitcase with him. When she looked at the suitcase, Richard immediately asked if she was interested in what was in it. The lady looked away, and Richard said that there were clothes that my lord had entrusted him to buy for him, and he came to Ron's boutique for this reason, and stayed to drink tea, and didn't even know that he would meet Lady Edwina here. Kate remembered that Ron had said that he and my lord had met when he had made clothes for him several times. And if you think about it, it all fits together. And there's nothing suspicious about Richard not being here, because Ron is an incredible tailor. Richard added that such craftsmen are difficult to find even in the capital. Ron came in with a mug of tea and said that they had completely embarrassed him and asked the girl to drink the tea before it got cold. Kate said she seriously thought his clothes were incredible. He thanked them, and then there was an awkward silence. Richard decided to lighten the mood and turned to the lady, apologizing for the fact that he might be rude because he wanted to ask her something. Kate allowed him to ask his question and did not expect Ron to react to her compliment like that. Richard asked how she had become close to my lord, because although he served him, Edwin had the most unpleasant character. To all this, Kate replied that they were not as close as Richard thought, and they had just crossed paths a couple of times in the library. Richard had noticed that my lord spent a lot of time in the library, and as an old servant, he was greatly pleased. And since my lord had begun living here, she was the first person he had invited home. The main character smiled bitterly, because she was the first one to visit Edwin's house. Kate said the tea was great, but she had to leave because she remembered she had urgent things to do. But Ron suddenly stopped her and asked if he could ask her for something, hinting at one last favor. She asked what he needed. The guy pulled out a brooch inspired by a gerbera flower. Ron asked Kate to come by whenever she wore it, and this dress any time. Because he wants to see them on her, Ron simply thought the brooch would go with the dress and was eagerly awaiting the main character's visit. Kate couldn't fall asleep because she had so many thoughts in her head that she couldn't even close her eyes. There's been a lot going on lately. Richard was being very disingenuous yesterday, and it would be great to know why. Everyone around her looked so suspicious that they simply sucked all the energy out of Kate. It would have been nice to see Edwin, but she shouldn't have visited him, and it seemed old habits got the better of her. Kate couldn't believe she had ended up in the library of all places, and she had a strange sense of déjà vu. It seemed that Edwin was not there, and Kate decided that since she was there, she would just read a book. And while choosing something for herself, Kate saw that very book of Edwin's and the bookmark that was on the page. In the book, Arthur's actions were unbecoming of a ghost. Arthur looked at Bella pitifully as he spoke about it, that it was time for him to go and she could find happiness without him, since his fate had already been decided. And he asked Bella not to be sad every time she thought about him. The girl didn't want to let Arthur go. She couldn't be happy without him. Kate could understand Bella's feelings and knew that if Edwin died again, just like that, she would not be able to survive it. Suddenly, a voice appeared behind him, asking if Kate had called him. Turning back, Kate saw Edwin there, saying that she really did do things her own way. The guy also asks what the lady is doing there, and the girl replies that she is very sorry. Since she hadn't made any arrangements with him, she thought that he wouldn't come today. Her interlocutor claims that this is not what he asked about and asks why she is acting as if she had done something bad. Kate replies that she made him angry last time, so I thought they would never see each other again. The man then sighs and asks if that's really the issue. He also claims he's not angry with the lady. Edwige says he was just afraid that something would happen to her if she drank the tea. The main character, shocked, asks him what he's talking about, but at that very moment, her interlocutor slams his hand on the table, and he claims that he behaved this way because he thought that there might be poison in the cup. Kate asks if he was worried about her then, but her interlocutor replies that it's not like that. After all, he simply doesn't like it when people suffer because of him. But in any case, let the ladies promise him that he won't be so careless in eating and drinking everything in sight. The main character says with a smile on her face that this is how it is, and claims that her soul even felt lighter. Her interlocutor watches this in shock and asks why she suddenly started crying again. At this time, the main character remembers how her relationship with this guy changed, and now she claims that she is just so happy. And my interlocutor says what a crybaby the lady is. He also says that what is more important is what her answer is, and the lady answers that she promises. Her interlocutor says that this is good, and then suggests getting straight to the point. He needs to tell her something, so the guy invites the lady to follow him because he found something. The main character asks if he has found the culprit, to which Edwin replies that he has not. But at the same time, the lady was not mistaken, because these things are connected well. First you need to leave there, and he will tell you the rest when. A little while later, they are already in the mansion, and the guy claims that this is Mary's room. The main character wonders if this is the maid, but can they just enter someone else's room like that? The man replies that he's her boss, and there's no need to worry since he sent her on a difficult mission. The girl then asks why they came there and what he wanted to tell her. The guy goes to one of the dressers and claims that he wanted to show her this, so he will look at it after which he lifts the double bottom of the chest of drawers, and there the clock and the pen are found. The girl asks if these are really his things, to which the guy replies that they are, because he lost these items and was going to simply turn a blind eye to it. But since these were items that he valued, he ordered his servants to look for them. The main character sees initials on the objects and says that these are indeed his things. Her interlocutor says that yes, she recognized the initials right away. He then asks the crybaby lady if she understands what's going on there. But the girl replies that she doesn't understand Edwin, then sighs and claims that it's so obvious. After all, Mary likes him. Kate understands that after her return, she suspected this, but how can he be so sure that she likes him? Edwin asks the lady if she has anything to say, and the main character replies that she does not. Well, he adds in his thoughts that maybe it's because he really is handsome. Then the girl says that Mary certainly can't be the culprit since she likes him. But the guy turns to the crybaby lady and claims that not everyone expresses love the way she does. The young man also suggests imagining that this is the case, and that this time Mary is not the culprit. The main character says that Then this means that only Richard remains, to which the prince replies that this is so. Of course, they can't just say he's a criminal, but he knows they're getting close. Then the main character says, they both need to be careful. Her interlocutor claims he's sure he's already told her. The fact that he is plunging into eternal sleep is not of his own free will, so she should not plunge into it headlong. Kate claims that she also told him that she wanted him to survive. Edwin is a little surprised and claims that the lady's annoyingness knows no bounds and she cannot be sure that anything will change. The girl replies that he's right, but it's still worth a try. Her interlocutor is silent for a moment, after which he suggests they leave it at that. After all, this is all he wanted to show her. And when the guy is going to leave, he tells the crybaby lady that they will see each other tomorrow, and the girl at the same moment screams that it's good. The next day, the girl combs her hair and then looks at the dress, and she understands that she can't put it off any longer, and that it's finally time to put an end to it. A short time later, the girl arrives at the prince's mansion. The butler immediately greets her, and he also says that today she looks even more beautiful, as if an angel himself had descended from heaven to them. Kate replies that she is flattered, and her interlocutor claims that he is not joking, because this dress suits her very well. This brooch is especially beautiful, and it suits the lady very well. At this rate, my lord will be completely charmed and will run off in the evenings to see her. The main character screams out what he is saying and asks him to stop saying such nonsense. At that very moment, the prince approaches them and claims he has a sense of taste. He also suggests that Richard stop spreading such absurd rumors. The butler claims that my lord is absolutely right, but he wonders if the lady is really so much to his taste, that the prince personally came out to greet her, to which the boy cries out that this is not true. He also tells Richard to stop and make them some tea, to which the butler replies that he understands and hopes they will have a wonderful time together. A little while later, Edwin states that this is quite strange, and the girl asks what exactly. Her interlocutor claims that it is time to plunge into eternal sleep, but nothing happens. The main character, shocked, asks what he's talking about, and Edwin asks why she's so surprised. The poison always manifested itself around this time and lasted no more than 1 or 2 days. Kate says that no matter how many times she hears it, she just can't get used to it. Her interlocutor claims that poisoning can look different, and the question is whether he will be able to avoid it or not. The main character understands that initially there were 2 suspects, the maid and the butler. But based on his previous investigation, Edwin is certain the maid is not involved, assuming there's no outside involvement. Then Richard becomes the most suspect person, and the girl says that if he is guilty, and her interlocutor claims that then he would have brought poisoned tea to their table. Then the main character insists that she needs to be careful with the tea Richard brings. The guy asks what happens next, and the main character claims that they can send Richard to run errands, or he could stay at her house today. But when the lady finishes this phrase, she says the last words quietly. Edwin asks what she said, because he didn't hear her, after which the main character doesn't even know what to say. And she screams that Richard will be back soon, so she will open the door for him. But when the lady approaches the door and begins to open it, it is not Richard who is behind it. The man behind the door turns out to be Ron, and the guy asks the lady what she is doing there. The guy also notices the dress on the lady. The girl replies that she did not initially plan to wear it. The main character understands that things are bad, because after meeting Edwin, she planned to find Ron and end it all, but she cannot believe that he came there himself. The guy at this time claims that the lady kept her promise, and she is so beautiful. The main character is a little surprised by this, but at the same moment, she feels someone's gaze on her. When she turns around, she realizes that it is Edwin's gaze. The prince tells the tailor that he is there to deliver clothes and not to talk. Ron immediately apologized and claimed to have delivered his order. He also approached Richard and asked if he could hand over the clothes. At this time, the main character remembers how the butler said that the suitcase contains clothes that the Lord entrusted him to buy for him. Ron, meanwhile, puts clothes on a mannequin, after which he states that another design is also ready and asks to look at it. At this time, the main character asks the Lord if she can look at this suit, to which the prince replies that she can do whatever she wants. Kate understands that the fabric is so good, and the stitching is carefully done, and the lining is also good, and the color will suit well. The girl also sees a brooch on the suit and understands that it is similar to the one she has. so perhaps beads are in fashion now. Well, at that very moment, the lady felt pain in her hand, and when she looked there, she realized that she had pricked herself with a brooch. Edwin turns to the crybaby lady in shock, but Ron immediately runs up to her and asks if Liana is okay. But he is so sorry. The guy also claims that it looks like the brooch was poorly attached and that they need to quickly treat the wound before the infection goes away. But at that very moment, the prince separates the guy from the lady and asks if he is in his right mind. After all, this suit was supposed to be worn by him. That is the prince of this nation. But the lady got hurt just by touching him. So is he really that untalented? His interlocutor then apologizes, and the main character turns to the Mylord. But he only tells her to give him her hand. And when the girl does so, her interlocutor claims that when Richard comes, he will tell him to bring medicine, and the wound is a little deeper than he thought. The main character cries out that she's fine, because it's hardly even a wound, but her interlocutor asks if she really thinks he's doing this because he's worried about her. He just doesn't want to leave scars on a married woman. The main character wonders if he's really saying what she's thinking. Her interlocutor asks her if she feels nauseous or dizzy. There's a chance she might have been poisoned, so if she feels anything strange, she should come clean and say so right away. The girl immediately cries out that she's really fine. Edwin claims that the way she has enough energy and speaks so optimistically, he begins to think that she really is fine. The main character is a little embarrassed, after which she asks if the kind-hearted prince can then close your eyes once and let the tailor go. The guy says she's so noisy, then extends his hand to the lady. But as soon as the clock strikes noon, the main character immediately falls to the floor. The prince, in shock, turns to the crybaby lady and, extending his hand to her, tells her to pull herself together. A little while later, the guy is already at the girl's funeral. He also claims that the lady did say that they would sort everything out together, but is she really going to break their promises this time too? And even though she plunged into eternal sleep because of him, he can't do anything. Besides laying a single flower, the guy says what a worthless prince he is and asks if she agrees. The young man puts down this flower and tells the crybaby lady to look because she is such an idiot. A little while later, the guy screams out, "What does that mean?" He said that someone poisoned the lady, but the judge bangs his gavel and shouts for silence in the courtroom. He also says that whatever the prince's status, he is in the sacred courtroom. Therefore, he will make the final verdict. And since no traces of poisoning were found in the victim's body, the reason for the plunge into eternal sleep is unknown. Therefore, the court finds the defendant, Ron Blanche, not guilty. A little while later, Edwin is already on the street and understands that although he was exiled to the border of the kingdom, this is not enough to completely refute all his accusations. If this is so, then the person capable of controlling the legal proceedings is involved in this. Well, at that very moment, someone comes up to the prince and holds an umbrella over him. When the guy looks up, he sees Ron in front of him. But at that very moment, he punches him in the face, after which he grabs me by the shirt and screams out who the hell he is to make such a sad face. Does he really think he has the right to insult? And the lady fell into eternal sleep because of him. His interlocutor replies that this is true because it's all his fault. The prince, however, says that the poison was definitely on the brooch he brought. So let the guy tell him who's behind all this. His interlocutor replies that he really didn't know there was poison on her. The prince cries out that he continues to repeat all this from the moment she fell into eternal sleep. But if he sincerely regrets that the lady has plunged into eternal sleep, then let him tell him the truth. And the guy is interested in whose doing this is, and also who put the girl into eternal sleep. Well, after this, his interlocutor just starts laughing out loud and wonders if he is really asking who put the lady into eternal sleep. But it was Prince Edwin who did this, because if it weren't for him, the girl would still be alive. The guy understands that if at that moment he told her that if she tries to prevent him from falling into eternal sleep, she herself could face the same fate. And he wonders how she would answer if he asked her if she still wanted to participate in this. The guy also understands that the lady would answer that if it is for his sake, then she does not care about such things at all. The prince also wonders why it was only after she plunged into eternal sleep that he realized how important the lady was to him. If only he'd realized it a little earlier. A little while later, the boy coughs up red liquid. The man who wounded him claims that it was unnecessarily difficult, and that it was a pity that he did not fall into an eternal sleep from the poison as before. The prince looks at his watch, after which he remembers Ron's words about how he plunged her into eternal sleep and wonders if he can save the lady if he returns to the past. If God exists, then he asks him to fulfill his wish because he wants to live. The young man understands that he does not crave eternal peace, but just wants to live with her. Therefore, if he can return to the past, he begs that he be able to save Kate. A little while later, the girl thinks about what they are saying because she can't make out anything, and the prince cries out to Richard and asks if he is there. The guy also says to call a doctor, and the main character looking at Edwin thinks that he shouldn't make that expression on his face, but she doesn't want him to suffer. After which the girl even saw the king's ghost who rewound time. At the same moment, the main character hears someone talking to her, and then she hears music playing there. The guy claims that even though he is late, he wants to sincerely congratulate her on her 19th birthday. The main character asks if it is Ron, and her interlocutor asks if the girl is okay, because she looks like she is not feeling well. Kate realizes that all this happened during her celebratory banquet, after which the girl says that no, and everything is fine. But she wonders if all of this was really like a dream. Everything was too colorful. At the same moment, someone else bursts into the banquet, after which he approaches the lady and hugs her. It turns out it was Edwin, and the guy claims that he really thought she had fallen into eternal sleep. The main character turns to him in surprise, and Ron watches all this in shock, after which the lady says that first the Lord should let her go. But the guy tells her not to move, and not even think about escaping, but just to stand still for a very short time. The main character is a little embarrassed after this, and also sees how others are looking at them. Kate asks her lord to let her go at this rate if rumors start to spread, but her interlocutor says how the lady loves to ruin the moment, after which he lifts her up in his arms and states that they have a lot to discuss, so let the lady follow him. The main character asks him what he's talking about, and a little while later they find themselves in the garden, and the prince says that this will do. When he pays attention to the girl, he asks what she is doing, and she replies that this is the first time this has happened to her, so she doesn't know what to do with her hands. The prince puts her on the floor and claims that the lady is a walking misunderstanding, and first let him make sure that she remembers. The guy also asks if she is Lady Crybaby, who returned to the past before or after her plunge into eternal sleep. The main character wonders if she really fell into an eternal sleep, and the guy says that means she is second. Kate asks what happened, and if she fell into eternal sleep, then how did she return to the day of her celebratory banquet? And what is more important, how did he find out that she had fallen into eternal sleep, and perhaps? Her interlocutor replies that everything is exactly as it always is, because as always, he returned to the past a couple of days after she fell into eternal sleep. And the girl asks if in that case, this time he too fell into eternal sleep. Her interlocutor replies that yes, and the girl wonders if it was from poison again. The prince says no. It was she who was poisoned, and his 10th induction into eternal sleep involved the use of a weapon. As soon as they had him in eternal sleep, they left the scene of the crime without a care, and he could have avoided it. The main character asks why he didn't do it then, because it's much more painful than falling into an eternal sleep from the poisons. Edwin replies that it didn't hurt him because he had already experienced this several times. But what's more important is that he wasn't sure, and the main character is wondering what he's talking about. The guy then gets embarrassed and cries out that he didn't know how to resolve this situation without her, and that's why. But then the young man sighs and claims that it is all because of her, because he wanted to return to the past where she was still alive. The fact that the lady had fallen into eternal sleep because of him tormented him so much that he felt like he was going crazy. Edwin. He claims that this was the first time he did not want to fall into eternal sleep, and therefore returned 10 times, because he did not want the lady to fall into eternal sleep. And this time, when he opened his eyes, he returned to the moment of her festive banquet that very day. The girl asks if the Lord hadn't returned to the moment before the incident with a cigarette all the previous times, to which the guy replies that she's right. And this is the first time after which the lady asks if something has occurred to him. The young man then recalls how he begged to return to the past and from bed, but now he claims that nothing. Then, the girl suggests that he look for clues together, to which the guy only remains silent. Kate asks what her descent into crippling sleep was like. Her interlocutor claims the lady ended her life with a poison that was odorless, colorless, and left no trace. The main character understands that anyone can fall into eternal sleep from such a small cut. After which she looks at her hands and says that, if this is so, then the person who brought the clothes is Ron. At that very moment, the girl hears someone calling her name, and it turns out to be Ron. The guy cries out that everyone is worried about Lady Gerald and asks where she is. At this time, the prince says how much he doesn't like this guy, and the main character tells the lord that since people are looking for them, shouldn't they return to the banquet? But her interlocutor at the same moment takes the lady by the hand and asserts that he does not want to go there, especially if that guy is there. After which he asks the lady what she thinks, and does she really want to return to such a holiday? The main character replies that no, after which, with a smile on her face, she asserts that she likes it when it's just the two of them, and her interlocutor asserts that everything is as he thought. This time, let her follow him herself, and he will tell her something more fun. A little while later, the guy is already standing with a lamp and asks why the girl is frozen there and let her pass. The main character wonders if they can just enter the library late at night, and her interlocutor says that everything is fine, but he has already been there a couple of times and nothing happened. The girl thinks that, of course, he is a prince, but then asks why they needed to go to the library. The guy claims that he said that he wanted to be alone with her, and the girl doesn't even know what to answer. Her interlocutor claims he's been thinking about it, but wonders why she's so calm. After all, the lady had fallen into eternal sleep and returned to life. The main character is a little surprised by this, and her interlocutor claims that this is something beyond the realm of possibility, like a memory of her immersion into eternal sleep. After all, there is nothing after it, and the main character claims that it was not painful at all, but she was terribly afraid that this could be the end. But then the lady claims that more than anything, it all seemed so pointless. Her interlocutor replies that everything is so, because plunging into a crippled sleep is exactly like that, and is usually also painful. Such things cannot be taken lightly, and the lady may again fall into eternal sleep, so he asks if she wants to stop. She doesn't have to drag herself into this anymore, and it's not her fault if she gives in. The prince asks if she wants to get her lost time, back to which the lady replies that she does. But when the guy wants to say something, the girl adds that she wants to give me back her time and theirs. She will not back down because if that were her wish, she would have run away long ago. Her interlocutor claims that if she has to plunge into eternal sleep again, it could be terribly painful. But does she really still agree with this? The girl nods after this, and Edwin tells the crybaby lady that she still can't learn. The main character insists that if she runs away, she won't be able to be with him. The guy asks where she gets such courage, and the girl, with a smile on her face, replies that nothing of the sort, after which she notices how the young man takes a book from the shelf. The girl also turns to the milord and asks if he remembers the author of this book, to which he replies that he has read it many times, so of course he remembers. But at that very moment, the boy realizes something. The main character claims that the author's name, William Day, was written on the cover, but now, when she looks at this book, she understands that there is nothing there, and the lady claims that if she thinks about it, she remembered something. When she first returned, there was only one single letter written on the book, but now there is nothing there. The guy realizes that the late king's favorite book is the book he read to find the reasons for everything that happened before his first returns. There were definitely all 10 letters written in the author's name, and only one letter remained after the 9th return of Edwin and her first. And now this is Edwin's 10th return, so the girl claims that now he will no longer be able to return. The girl claims that this can't be just a coincidence or a crazy chain of events. Her interlocutor after this says that they will look, and then the lady says that now he should turn on his brain and come up with something. Her interlocutor asks what she is talking about, and the lady asserts that if he thinks carefully, he will definitely come up with something, and earlier, he said that she was plunged into eternal sleep from the poison. And then, as expected, at that very moment, the guy screams at her to wait and asks if she understands what is happening now. They don't know if she can come back again, and if she falls into eternal sleep, then that's the end. So if they leave everything as is, then he will finally be able to meet. But the girl claims that he said that he didn't want to fall into eternal sleep. And then they have only one solution. The guy says that if she continues to participate in all this, the girl asks what will happen then, after which her interlocutor suggests they forget about it. A little while later, he asks if the lady asked if the tailor had put her into eternal sleep. After which, the guy claims that it's not quite right, because when the case went to court, they let him off too easily, even with the prince's testimony. A commoner with such abilities is extremely rare, so he asks the lady what she thinks about it. Kate asks if someone else is behind this, and her interlocutor replies that this is exactly the case. After all, this is the organizer with power over the judicial system. Although he was the target, plans suddenly changed, and the lady fell into an eternal slumber. The deviations from the original plan must have made it difficult for them to hide. And during the trial, much evidence was simply destroyed. Their confidence must have been so high that even if they had been suspected, they would have gotten away with it. The main character asks if a man so powerful that he can control the court like a puppet ordered Ron to put him into eternal sleep, to which her interlocutor replies that everything is not so simple. The organizer of his immersion into eternal sleep is always the same, but the performer seems to be new every time. Then, the girl asks if it is that specific person, and the guy replies that it was the tailor who put her into eternal sleep this time. Or to be more precise, the organizer is behind it, so this time the crime could be committed by another person. Then the main character says they need to find out who wields such power. Mary adores him, and if she's excluded, they'll become the prime suspects. But then the lady realizes that since someone else is the mastermind, they can't pinpoint a specific person. Firstly, when they were able to slightly open the curtain of secrecy, they realized that there were two people, the tailor and Richard. After this, the main character remembers everything that happened, and how the butler said that this brooch suits the lady, and also how the tailor claimed that he went to Richard and asked if he could give the clothes into his hands. The main character says that if you think about it, then how did he know that Ron was guilty? Her interlocutor claims that it is obvious that only such a cunning person could use such tricks. Kate wonders if Ron is being cunning. She claims Richard is also capable of this, and was initially their prime suspect. Edwin claims the tailor was pardoned too quickly, and the main character argues that there's a high probability that Ron is a criminal. But they can't just write off Richard, after which her interlocutor remains silent for a while. And the main character wonders if there is some other reason, and the guy asks how she even figured it out, after which he says that in fact, after she plunged into eternal sleep, he began to suspect everyone around him, and Richard too. He has lived with his butler since childhood, and if you think about it, he has been there more than his parents. Therefore, he knows all his habits and the smallest mannerisms of behavior. And when the lady fell into eternal sleep, he was sincerely trying to console him. He had never seen such an expression on his face, but at the same time it was familiar. The guy remembers how he was at the funeral of his parents, and claims that this is an expression. If this is what he thinks about, then he cannot be a criminal. The main character then turns to the Lord and asks if he is okay, and the guy replies that it's nothing to worry about. In any case, besides Richard, he sorted out and studied everyone he considered suspicious, and only one familiar face remained. It turns out to be Ron, and the main character asks if they need to check him then, and if necessary, she can follow him. But the guy suggests that the crybaby lady calm down and asks what the most important thing he told her was. The main character asks if he really means that there will be no more returns, and her interlocutor replies that it is important. But as he said, the organizer has already started to show himself, so they need to aim for the head and not the tail. The girl asks him if he has any suggestions about what her interlocutor wants to say. But at that very moment, a ghost appears near them, and the main character looks at it. Edwin turns to the crybaby lady and asks if he is standing there now, to which the girl replies that it is so. But the guy claims he can't see it at all. The main character asks how he can't see it, since the ghost is right behind him. Edwin then starts laughing and claims that they can't be sure that he's run out of tries. At this time, the ghost is trying to say something, but the main character hears only fragments of words, after which she asks if he really said, "Come back." The prince, hearing this, is shocked and asks if this is really what he said, to which the girl replies that yes, and he just said it without a doubt, and then disappeared. The guy says the word return, after which he wonders if he really knew about everything from the very beginning. The girl asks where he wants the prince to return to, and the guy answers that he needs to return to the palace. The main character immediately picks up the lamp from the floor, after which he approaches Lord Edwin and asks if he is going to go there alone. The guy is silent for a moment, after which he continues to say how persistent the lady is, He also claims that they say that when a person changes, they are destined to fall into eternal sleep. But this is difficult for both of them to apply. A little while later, they open one of the books, and the guy claims that at the moment, he suspects two people. The first suspects are King Benson Arthur Windsor, and the girl knows him because he is his uncle, and this man was third in line to the throne after his father fell into eternal sleep. Kate understands that if she hadn't asked Ron, she wouldn't have known about this, and her interlocutor claims that he had suspected this man since his very first return, because no matter how you look at it, he looks dubious and everything. After all, he is his brother's son, and the man may want to get rid of his adopted son. The young man recalls how his mother proposed to the king to marry her. At this time, the boy was watching everything from the side, and now he asks the lady what she thinks why he didn't do anything. Since he only had suspicions, he didn't even try to find out whether this man wanted him to fall into eternal sleep. Or you could say he simply didn't want to know, because it seemed that way to him, that this man cared about him more than his own father, and that's why he didn't want to know the truth. Edwin claims that nothing has changed even now, because even now he hopes that he is not the criminal, and at some point the boy realized that with his resources, it would be impossible to pursue the king. The main character says that if he cares about him, then she cares about him too. Well, her interlocutor just sighs and asks why he is telling all this to the crybaby lady. The main character claims they now share a secret about returns, and ghosts a topic that would make them look like complete psychos if they discussed it with others. Just like he looked at her at their first meeting, after which the guy was silent for a while. The main character immediately screams that she said it as a joke, and her interlocutor replies that he knows and doesn't think that everything was so bad. After which, he remembers how the lady touched him, and claims that he is remembering her actions. Isn't it natural that he got upset, and the main character claims that this will not happen again? At that moment, it all seemed like a long dream to her, and her interlocutor was wondering if, even if it was all just a donkey, she really was touching other people's faces like that. The main character replies that she doesn't touch anyone except him, but when the lady looks at her interlocutor's grin, she becomes embarrassed and cries out what just happened to his facial expression. The guy says that instead of unnecessary debate, it is better to move on to the next suspect, and he said that he is considering two, after which Edwin claims that the second person is the Grand Duke Arvin Windsor. After Benson became king, Arvin moved up to third in line to the throne and is currently the most powerful person after the king. And it was he who sent the prince to this place, after which the main character says that this is the place where both suspects are located. And her interlocutor says that everything is exactly like this, and therefore he must return to the palace. Kate claims that she already said that the package was with him, and her interlocutor asks if she is absolutely sure about this. The girl asks how else, after which the guy claims that he thought she said all this because she didn't understand anything, and now she knows who they are dealing with. Kate claims that she doesn't throw words to the wind, and besides, they decided to work together. After this, the guy asks if everything will be okay for the lady, because if she follows him to the palace now, she will not be able to return home for a very long time. If she ever comes back, or if she doesn't have any left, a feeling of affection and longing, after which the main character remains silent for a while. Then the girl claims that she does not have such feelings, but if he had gone to the palace without her, these feelings would have tormented her soul until the end of time. Edwin claims that there is a chance to fall into eternal sleep there, but then he also claims that trying to convince her is a waste of time, so let her come to his mansion in 2 days at noon, and they will go together. Kate claims that this may sound strange, but for some reason she is delighted, and her interlocutor asks if she is really delighted about the trip to the palace. The lady replies that yes, and the guy says that they are not going there to have fun. A little while later, the lady sits with a pen and realizes that she did not expect that she would not find the words to say goodbye to this house, after which the girl puts the letter down and understands that if she leaves it there, the maids will definitely notice. Then the lady goes out into the street and says that she may not see this street again soon, but when she returns, everything will have changed. Then the main character understands that if she is late because of such a trifle, Lord Edwin will be upset, so she should hurry. But at that very moment, someone else notices Lady Kate and addresses her. The guy claims that he couldn't even imagine that he would be so lucky, after which he says that they haven't seen each other for a long time, and the main character says yes, Ron notices a suitcase in the lady's hands and wonders if she is going somewhere far away, and maybe the lady is going on vacation. The main character replies that no, and this is not a vacation, but thinks how uncomfortable she is. The girl also claims that she is heading to the capital, and her interlocutor cries out in shock. Did she really just say that she is going to the capital? To which she replies that yes. The guy then claims that he was just about to share the news with her. It turned out that he was also going there and was invited to the palace as a tailor's apprentice. So to think that he would be able to see her there. And he's such a lucky guy. The main character asks if he'll really be going to the palace, to which her interlocutor replies that he will. And he thought that he would not be able to meet with my lady again. But everything turned out so well. The guy also asks Lady Kate if she will allow him to continue sewing clothes for her when they are in the capital. The main character then turns to Ron and asks why he continues to try to get closer to her. The lady also understands that even if she suffered because of him, there was still a time when they were happy, albeit for a short time. The girl claims that she never reciprocated his friendliness and was constantly rude to him. To top it all off, she rejected his marriage proposal. But her interlocutor replies that it's because he already told her about it. He wants to maintain a good relationship with her. And the girl asks what he means by a good relationship. And does he really mean to propose marriage and a relationship? The guy claims he'll be honest. After which, he says that he often watched Lady Kate even before his proposal. Having plunged her own mother into eternal sleep at birth, the second daughter was named the disgrace of the house Gerald. Unlike her older sister, the lady was gloomy in appearance, and her soul was dark, and so everyone repeated in unison. But one day in the boutique, where he worked as an apprentice, he saw a lady for the first time, and then he felt they were alike. The girl's life was unsuitable for the environment into which she was born. He thought that maybe the lady was also as lonely as he was, and the main character asks what this means. The guy claims that when he lost his parents at an early age, he had nothing left except an old store and his sewing talents. And when he turned around, after how long he continued to run away in an attempt to survive, making dress after dress, he realized he was alone. He had no parental support or true friends. And then he saw the lady. Even when everyone was pointing fingers at her, his opinion was different. That's why he wants to have a good relationship with her, and he didn't want to leave someone like him alone. The young man takes Lady Kate's hand and states that the reason he proposed to her is because that he could feel the same lonely aura emanating from her. One cannot get used to loneliness if one simply endures it for a long time. And even now, his feelings have not changed. At this time, the main character remembers the poisoned brooch and imagines what would have happened if Edwin had pricked himself on it. The girl claims that she also has business in the palace, and if they ever see each other again, then she will at least say hello, after which the guy says yes. After this, the girl tells him to take care of himself, and when he wants to leave, she claims that she wanted to say something else. After all, she is no longer alone. And a little while later, someone approaches the crybaby lady. It turns out to be Edwin, and the guy says that she is late. The main character asks for forgiveness, and her interlocutor claims that today she behaves differently. Kate asks what he's talking about, and the guy suggests that she forget about it because in any case, they're late, so they need to hurry. At the same moment, someone else approaches the lady and greets her, and also states that he is glad to meet them. The man claims that his name is Richard, and that he is Lord Edwin's butler. The protagonist asks Richard why he's introducing himself, considering they've already met. But at that moment, the girl realizes they went to the library, and she hasn't met Richard yet. Kate also introduces herself, and the butler says he's pleased to meet her, then asks to be called by his first name, and asks if the lady can give him her bag. He agrees. The man says he's honored to escort them both to the palace, after which he even says that perhaps she is Lord Edwin's girlfriend, and the main character is indignant, after which she screams that not at all, and Edwin also says that nothing of the sort. After which the carriage sets off. The prince claims that the lady has always lived near this village, and he wonders if she's really that interesting. The main character replies that not much, and in fact, before their meeting in the library, she had hardly gone outside. And after he plunged into eternal sleep, she did it even less often. Her interlocutor claims that they will return there again, and the main character asks if he was really trying to console her. At that very moment, the guy screams out, "What kind of nonsense is this?" Because he just said that they would come back, and it is obvious that their destination is starting to give him a headache. So we need to hurry and get out of there. Kate asks if it would be rude to ask him what it's like to return to the palace. The guy replies that this is a normal question, and although he encountered difficulties after plunging into his father's eternal sleep, well, this place is filled with happy memories. Kate realizes that even though Edwin didn't finish the sentence, she knew what he meant. Whatever happens in the future, this place will never be the same. The main character puts her hand on his and states that she also wants to comfort him. A little while later, the girl is already getting out of the carriage, and the prince extends his hand to her. When the girl looks at her in surprise, her interlocutor asks what she is doing because his arm is already numb. The main character asks if this is really called accompaniment, and her interlocutor claims that if she knows it herself, then she shouldn't force him to say it. Kate sees the guy's red ears and then thinks what she's making up. The two head to the palace, and Edwin claims that tomorrow they will have an audience with His Highness, so she needs to understand her role. Let her listen carefully, because he speaks only once, and the lady will enter the palace as his bride, which surprises the girl, after which he starts screaming about what he is talking about. Edwin tells her to shut up because she will wake everyone up, and let the girl not understand him wrong. It's just the only way she can move freely around the palace without raising suspicions that she's agreeing to something. The guy says that this is great, and they secretly got engaged at the Gerald family estate and also came to the palace for approval of their marriage. The main character in shock repeats these words about her interlocutor, who says that this is why she continues to react like this. Then he sends her back home to something that she understands. The guy says that the lady should play her role perfectly, and he will play as flawlessly. And if we talk about what happened before, he did not do it on a whim, so let her not imagine it. The main character thinks about what he is talking about, after which she remembers how the guy extended his hand to her and blushed a little. Kate, with a smile on her face, asserts that she understands, and her interlocutor turns around and asserts that this is, after all, a question concerning life. A little while later, they find themselves in one of the rooms, and the girl addresses the Lord, and also asks why there is only one bed, and do they really need to ask for another room, to which the guy replies to the crybaby lady that he already said. So, the girl arrived at the palace as his bride, so it is obvious that she will share a room with her groom. The main character wants to object, but her interlocutor only says so with his face and says that it seems she has forgotten. But he's the prince of this country, so who knows what rumors will spread if they spend the night separately? The girl replies that she knows, and he's right. But that doesn't change the fact that they only have one bed. The guy then asks if the lady has already forgotten that the person who wants to put him into eternal sleep is in this palace. They can't know if he's targeting the girl who is his fiancée, but the lady so easily fell into eternal sleep even when he was next to her. Therefore, let her remain in his field of vision and not even think about escaping from under his supervision. The main character is surprised by this, and the guy asks what it was, to which she replies that he is just worried about her. Edwin sighs and claims that the lady has become bolder since returning to life. The bed is spacious enough for two people to sleep on it, but the lady asks what if she sleeps on the sofa. Her interlocutor replies that no way unless she usually sleeps on the floor. Edwin claims that he does not sleep with her in the same bed on a whim, after which he asks if she really considers him so shameless, to which the lady replies that, of course, this is not true, because she has never shared a bed with anyone, that is why she reacts this way. The guy sternly asks if she really thinks that he shared, and if she's so embarrassed, then let her sleep on the floor. A little while later, the main character is already lying in bed, and when it is almost 2 o'clock in the morning, the lady realizes that she still cannot sleep, after which she hears His Highness making a sound. And then the guy turns around in her direction. The main character realizes he's fallen asleep, and there's a deafening silence all around. The lady realizes he's not alive, so she puts her hand on his pulse and, addressing him by name, realizes he's alive after all. At that moment, the guy tells the lady to stop staring. The main character is surprised and immediately takes her hand back, and also claims that she thought he was sleeping as Edwin immediately turns around and they lie there in silence. The boy decides to break the silence and claims he's alive. If she wants to call him by name as a deceased person, then it is better for her not to call him at all, after which the lady closes her eyes and falls asleep. A little while later, the guy turns to her and claims that the girl has been sleeping for a long time. The main character gets out of bed, and her interlocutor says that if she woke up, then she should get ready. Kate says he should have woken her up, but her companion asks why he would do that, and if she can't even get up on her own. The guy also understands that now she'll probably apologize to him, but the girl at the same moment asserts that she agrees, and will try to do so next time. She also wishes him good morning, after which the guy is surprised, and says that he did not fall into eternal sleep and returned back in one night. The main character asks him what he's talking about, after which her interlocutor replies that it's nothing and that she should get ready quickly because she needs to go. Kate watches the guy leave, wondering if he just smiled. A little while later, the main character comes out into the hallway and asks how long he's been waiting for her. The lady claims that she still feels awkward wearing dresses like this. The prince says that if she had stayed a little longer, he would have gone alone. The lady apologizes for being late and claims she was a little nervous. But the guy replies that this is not it, and asks where the lady who was there in the morning went. Right now, she will meet His Majesty the King, and even if she does not make a big impression, let her not lose heart at the very beginning of the journey. Edwin, looking at the lady, smirks and insists that this way is better. Then he shows it all off so the lady can take his arm. He also claims that he said that they need to play their roles perfectly, so let the lady not lose her mask and hide her true self as reliably as possible, because now she is his bride. At the same moment, someone reports that Prince Edwin is entering the imperial palace, but as soon as the door opens, then His Majesty immediately runs up to the guy and hugs him, and also says that he hasn't seen his cute gray kitten for so long. The main character watches this in shock, and the guy asks how His Majesty is doing. The man asks why the guy is acting so formal. And didn't he tell him to address him casually, like in the past? To which the young man replies that he does. His interlocutor claims he prefers that title, and that it sounds friendlier. He certainly doesn't expect the guy to call him father, so let it be that way at least. The man also claims that so much time has passed, and wonders how many years have flown by. But it seems that the guy has outgrown him during this time. The king also claims that he carefully read the young man's letter, and to think that his little boy had already fallen in love with someone. But his father, who left them so early, would have been even happier than he was if he had read this letter. The young man then recalls his childhood and asks if things were like this. The protagonist realizes that this is the first time she's seen Edwin behave like this, and to think that their prime suspect is a man, Edwin holds dear. The man asks the boy where his fiancée is, since his uncle really wants to see her, and the main character wonders if he hasn't noticed her. Edwin tells his uncle that she's right in front of him, then asks the lady to introduce herself. The girl immediately bows and apologizes for greeting him so late. She claims that her name is Kate Gerald, and she is the second daughter of the Marquise Gerald. Her interlocutor then apologizes and says that it turns out that this is Edwin's fiancée. At this time, the guy asks where Her Highness the Queen is, and the man replies that she went out for a while. Well, let him not worry about it, because when she found out that he was coming to the palace, she said that she would return soon, so they would see each other soon. And also the soil of the palace. The guy spends time with his bride, and later, he will meet her. Edwin puts his hand on the main character's trembling hand and says that everything is fine. The king claims that this is all fine, but he has organized an evening banquet for them and also hopes that they will attend it. And the guy asks if he is talking about the banquet. The man replies that this is precisely the case, and since his son has returned with his bride, it would be a shame to miss the banquet. The young man realizes he should decline the offer and is about to say something, but the king immediately turns to Lady Kate and asks if she disagrees with him. The main character wonders if this question is really addressed to her, and she should refuse. But when the lady is about to say something, she looks at the expression on the king's face and then claims that she is so touched by his concern for them. But at the same moment, the prince claims that he does not want to go, and when the king turns to him in surprise, the guys claim that they clearly told him that they want a quiet wedding, and besides Kate, I like lively places. Their interlocutor says he's been preparing for this banquet since receiving his letter, and everyone is curious to see the two of them, so let them show up at the banquet at least for a little while. He's certainly not his biological father, but he asks them not to refuse. The guy then claims that since he's already said that they'll come and leave immediately, to which their interlocutor affirms that's fine, and thanks the young man for changing his mind. The guy then says they'll see each other later and leaves. As they head down the hallway, the main character suddenly apologizes. Her interlocutor asks why, and the lady insists that if she had handled things better, they wouldn't have had to go to the banquet, and for that she apologizes. Edwin says that by the time his uncle found out they were coming, their participation in the banquet had already been decided. And since it had been decided they would have had to go anyway, the guy also wonders if everything will be okay, because not only his uncle will be at the banquet, but also other people holding high positions. And for her who lives only on the lands of the Geralds, this could be frightening. And for him too, it's his first time in this situation. But what if she's there and he can't handle it well? At that very moment, the main character interrupts him and yells at him not to worry. Can't they just pop in for a minute and leave quickly, and nothing bad should happen? Her interlocutor then claims that she really is thinking too positively. The guy also extends his hand to the lady and asks if she's already forgotten what kind of relationship they are in, to which she replies that she hasn't forgotten. Kate claims that the nickname seems to suit him well, because Edwin really does look like a cute cat. The guy is only embarrassed by this and tells the lady to shut up, because if she mentions that strange nickname again, he'll actually be offended. When the guy opens the door to the room, he sees a butler there, and the man asks if it's really Lord Edwin and Lady Kate. Kate asks if it's Richard, and the prince insists he arrived earlier than expected. The guy also asks why the lady is so surprised. After all, if he's there, then so is Richard. He ordered him to bring extra luggage that might be useful. The butler, meanwhile, wonders when Lady Kate and Lord Edwin became so close. They never said anything, but in the end, as he predicted, they eloped while making love. When he heard the news of their engagement from other people, it felt like the old man's heart was breaking. The main character cries out for Richard to wait, as she'll explain everything now. But her interlocutor suggests not to be shy, as he's served His Highness for over 10 years. It's hard to believe that Lord Edwin, who never knew the word wedding, is now engaged, after which he almost in tears asks Lady Kate to take care of Lord Edwin so he can pass on to the next world without regrets. The protagonist wonders if this is the man she always considered the prime suspect. The prince immediately tells Richard to stop. The man immediately claims he's foolishly interrupted their time together, and his companion asks what that look is. The butler then insists he's leaving, and that they should let him know if they need anything. Edwin throws him a pillow and yells that they're fine, so he should go. Now the guy says he's serious, and was reading a book but was interrupted. He then reads his father's book again, and the main character realizes that everything is definitely the same as before, but she feels like something has changed. The place is the same, but now it looks cozy. The guy turns to the crybaby lady and asks how long she plans to stand there, to which she doesn't even know what to answer. Her interlocutor says she can give answers right from there and asks what impression she got of King Benson. The main character claims that he seemed genuinely happy to see the guy and that he values him, but even so, she thinks she needs to keep an eye on him to be sure. The guy says there will be another opportunity later, and the main character asks if that's all there is to it, and he won't even offer any advice. Her interlocutor replies that she should already know that he doesn't know, which is why it's so difficult. Kate insists she understands and will take his advice into account, after which she calls him Cute Kitten Edwin. Again, the guy immediately exclaims that he warned her not to use that stupid nicknames, and the girl screams that it wasn't her who started it, after which the guy starts throwing pillows at her, and the butler, hearing all this, understands that the lovers are arguing and just making fun. The main character realizes that for the first time in her life, she's raised her voice at someone, especially Edwin. Afterward, she apologizes if she upset him. He was reading a book and didn't respond to her. The guy asks if she's really saying it's his fault, then suggests they stop as he's not in the mood to talk right now. So let her go, to which she agrees, somewhat sadly. Her interlocutor says she can come back in 30 minutes. The guy also claims he wants some privacy, as this room doesn't have a balcony, and that it might be a good idea to explore the palace. The protagonist asks if he's talking about the palace, and he replies that he is, because they don't know for how long, or at least for a while. It's not time for action yet, and there's no reason to put her into eternal sleep. It won't be dangerous, but she should still return in 30 minutes. After this, the protagonist, touched, turns to Lord Edwin. He asks if it's obvious he's angry and that he can't send her away any longer, which irritates him even more. The guy also motions for her to get lost. A little while later, the woman appears in the hallway. She smiles as she thinks about those 30 minutes and realizes he really does look like a kitten. The woman also realizes she's left the room and wonders where she should go. Peering into one of the rooms, the lady realizes she's unfamiliar with the main palace. However, when she examines it, she realizes it's a library. The palace library is on a whole new level, and the lady sees a stack of books. The main character picks up one of them and wonders if these books haven't been put away yet. But when she moves it, she sees someone's head there and asks if it's really that person. A little while later, the guy thanks the lady for her help and claims he was reading the books and they fell on him. This happened because he had placed them carelessly and was unsure how to get out, as the books were heavier than he thought. But then a lady appeared. The main character realizes he's read so many books and claims that he really does seem to enjoy reading. The young man replies that of course it is, and wonders if all wisdom doesn't come from books. And not just wisdom. If a book character travels, you can understand the author's worldview. And if you combine different theories, you can create a whole new world, and reading books allows you to explore these worlds. The main character thinks that he is a suspicious type, but he does not look like a bad person. And the lady says that he really loves books, so if she were an author, she would be happy thanks to people like him. The young man claims he's unsure how it would work, then asks if the woman has a favorite book. The woman replies that she prefers novellas, and the young man claims this is unexpected. The main character, meanwhile, reminisces about her grandmother, and then claims she also likes fairy tales. The boy insists that fairy tales are good and written for children, but many adults enjoy them too. The young man also claims she's holding a fairy tale that was recently sent there, and it's about Eddie the cat. In this book, there was a nameless forest on a mountain, and it was the place where the Lion King's son, Eddie, was born. He was a cat with a beautiful silver tail. One day, the lion, while showing off his prey, said the following: he would inherit the throne and rule this forest, so he needed to be stronger than everyone else. Looking at his father, Eddie thought he wasn't as strong as his father. Looking at the dejected boy, the lion picked up the prey he'd caught. But suddenly, the meat got stuck in his throat, and so the lion fell into an eternal sleep. A short time later, the animals claimed the lion had fallen into eternal sleep and wondered who would become their new king. Someone wondered if it really had to be that cat, and whether he would ascend the throne. But even a white rabbit would do better. Eddie was confused, and after falling into the lion's eternal sleep, he was left alone, and no one paid him any attention. The kitten fell lower and lower, and finally, as he rested near the edge of the forest, a wolf coming for the lion's meat attacked Eddie and left. The mauled Eddie remembered the lion. The boy understood that left alone, he would be equally lonely, falling into eternal sleep. The main character reads the fairy tale in shock, and her interlocutor asks how she managed it, since it was created by a capital doll maker. He thinks she perfectly captures the emptiness of life, which is why he really likes the story. The guy asks, what about Milady? The main character realizes that the main character in this story is her cute gray kitten, and no matter how you look at it, Eddie reminds him of Edwin. Her interlocutor claims that, frankly speaking, he wrote the story as soon as he received permission. The main character looks at him in shock, after which the guy addresses the Mela alone, but the girl immediately looks at her watch and exclaims that she still has things to do and needs to go. After which the girl runs out of the room, and the guy lifts his glasses and claims he completely forgot to ask her name. But apparently, she really does have important things to do. As the girl walks down the hallway, she wonders how this man could have written such a story, and whether she should tell Edwin about it. Maybe she's worrying for nothing. She considers that there was a lion, the king of the forest, and forest that thirsted for a dress. There was also a kitten there. The main character, shocked, ponders all this, and then turns to Edwin. He asks why her face is so pale. But at that moment, someone else runs up to the lady and greets her with a hug. The girl asks if she is Milady Kate Gerald. Then, she wonders if she's really her older brother's fiancée. The main character thinks how cute the girl is and asks if she's Edwin's little sister and a princess. The little girl replies that it's true and that her name is Urian. This stern-faced guy has only one sister, and her interlocutor asks what the girl said. The main character wonders if he's the terrible one and the little girl insists she was wondering who wanted to have sex with her brother, and it turned out to be my lady. After that, the girl says that means Kate is an angel. The main character looks at the little girl, who seems like an angel herself, and Edwin suggests to his sister that they shouldn't say anything weird to Kate. The little girl wonders if he doesn't like her being friendly with the angel, but her brother once again suggests that she shouldn't say anything weird and leave quickly. Meanwhile, the little girl insists that whatever the case she's asking him to, choose his words more carefully. Although she's generous and grants him forgiveness, the guy tells the little girl to shut up. The main character realizes that, since she's a princess, she'd better talk to him alone. The little girl immediately hides behind the main character's back and asks her brother, how dare he treat a lady like that, especially since he wouldn't do that to Kate? The young man then asks what kind of lady she is considering. She hasn't even had her coming-of-age ceremony yet. The girl then turns to Kate and asks if she'll also come to her coming-of-age ceremony. The protagonist replies that she'll definitely come after, which they pinky promise, and the little girl insists that she'll say something nice in return. The little girl also whispers to the lady that not long ago when she arrived, her brother came out and was very worried about Kate. But at that very moment, the boy covers his sister's mouth and tells Bertha to shut up. He also turns to Kate and tells her to go to her room, because he needs to talk to her. When the girl sees her brother's face and hears him say they need to talk, she cries out for Kate to help her. The protagonist simply walks toward the room, her thoughts changing, but she realizes there's nothing she can do. A short time later, the boy returns to the room. The girl asks if the princess had a good time. Edwin replies that she has nothing to worry about, as he wouldn't mistreat his only sister. The boy also asks what's going on, and when the lady asks what he's talking about, her interlocutor asks what she wanted to tell him, and that something did happen. Kate asks if he's really understood. Even though she tried so hard to keep a low profile, Edwin insists it's written all over her face, so it was hard not to notice. The girl says that, in that case, she understands there's no point in worrying, but she's telling him what happened. Her interlocutor then says it's clear, and she's talking about a book of puppet theater fairy tales. She says she doesn't know this man, and the lady replies that yes, it looks like he was a librarian. Edwin says that, although he's a calculating man, his physical description differs from what he knows, but it's difficult to judge based on hair color alone. Kate asks if he's a calculating man, and her interlocutor insists she'll see everything soon. He asks if the lady is ready to go to the reception, but there's almost no time left, and the girl wonders if it's time already. Her interlocutor insists the lady is also 2 minutes late, and next time he won't wait for her. The girl recalls the little girl's words about her brother coming out and being very worried about Kate, and she also thinks that he really was worried. The main character realizes that she must have changed, because before this was all she would have thought about. At this time, her interlocutor asks what is wrong with the lady's face, to which the girl replies that nothing, and next time, she will definitely come on time. Edwin just sighs, and the girl realizes she now has a reason to get to know him better. The lady also asks where Edwin is going, and the guy replies that they will be attending the reception, so he will go get ready. Meanwhile, the main character is thinking about the reception in their honor and realizes that even at her birthday party, she's always remained in the shadows. Of course, all this is true, and why bother with such a timid and simple person when there's such a beautiful Rosalina, though she should be used to it by now. The girl also remembers holding a book when she was little. The little girl understood that she had told her father she wanted it, and he remembered she knew she couldn't have it. But her father had given it to her, and the little girl knew it was best to thank him right then. But at that very moment, one of the young men playing bumped into the table, spilling a container of water on the lady. The man then apologized to her and asked if she was hurt. The main character just stared at the wet book in her hands. But at that very moment, another boy turned to his friend and told him they needed to run. The boy asked what he was talking about, since it was because of him. Well, before he could finish, this guy claimed that this was a reception in honor of this lady, and this girl was guilty of plunging her mother into eternal sleep, so this would be her punishment. Since on this day, the Marquis's wife fell into eternal sleep, the main character understands that it's impossible to get used to this. The little girl, looking at herself in the mirror, realized that this was all her fault, and that it would be better if she looked more like her mother. If she had been born beautiful, everything might have been different. The girl also wonders what if Edwin were reproached for marrying such an ugly and stupid girl. Until now, she'd been trying to be brave for him. But at that moment, someone turned to the lady and asked what had happened. The guy told the lady to look at him and asked if she was okay. Kate claims that she thought he had gone out, but her interlocutor claims that she didn't answer him and asks if she really wants to say anything else, to which the lady replies that she doesn't. Her interlocutor insists she knows what happened, and the lady says she just doesn't think she can go to the reception. If others find out he has such an ugly fiancé, they'll definitely laugh at him. She tried to act brave, as if nothing had happened, but she couldn't stop thinking about it, and the lady asked if she was stupid. The guy asked if that was really the only reason she was worried, and that they weren't going to stay there anyway. So he told her everything would be fine, and he never broke his promises. Firstly, he'll keep an eye on her, and it would be strange if someone started making fun of her. And he won't allow anyone to say anything bad about her, so the ladies shouldn't worry. The main character turns to Mr. Edwin in surprise, and the guy tells her not to get anything out of her head. He just doesn't want his fiancée to have low self-esteem, and the girl replies that yes, after which she apologizes for bothering her. The guy says she's saying it wrong and that he told her how it should be, after which the lady replies that yes, they thank him, and her interlocutor claims that things are better. The young man then asserts that now he really should get ready, and at that very moment, someone knocks on the door. Edwin says that they finally arrived, and he didn't want the lady to go looking like that, so he called the maids, and they would help her get ready. They'll make the lady so beautiful that no one will have any bad thoughts, so she shouldn't worry. The main character understands that she was worrying for nothing, because he cares about her. The lady also thanks Mr. Edwin, who says they're done then, and that he'll be waiting for her. A little while later, the main character asks if they're finished, to which the maid replies, yes. The girl looking at her reflection claims it's not her, but rather a different person. When the lady steps out into the hallway, she sees a prince there, and he claims she looks quite nice. The main character realizes he's a library elf, or rather more like an angel. The guy claims he understands he's very handsome, but her intense gaze unsettles him a little. He then turns to the lady and asks if she's still worried, to which she replies that she doesn't know, because everything seems fine. But when it comes to greeting her, how should she react? Edwin tells the lady not to waste her nerves on other people and to focus on him, after which they enter the ballroom. Everyone looks at the prince's bride and begins to discuss her. One of them asks if this girl's last name is Gerald, but at that very moment, the prince takes the lady by the hand and claims that he told her not to waste her nerves on them, because it doesn't matter whether she's perfect or useless, but they will say the same thing, so Kate will have to get used to this and let her just accept it and get attention. But there won't be anything fun there, and he'll be bored too. After which, the main character with a smile on her face says she'll do as the master says. The guy, however, says he'll take better care of her today, which makes the girl a little embarrassed. A short time later, the king approaches them and claims that this is his beloved gray cat Edwin. The boy addresses his majesty, who declares he is pleased to meet them and thanks them for visiting. He is also pleased to meet Lady Kate again. As promised, he won't detain them, so let them enjoy the reception to the fullest and let it pass peacefully. Afterward, the prince thanks his majesty. The man tells the boy not to call him that, then declares that he will go greet the other guests. When he leaves, the main character sighs, and her companion asks if everything is okay, to which the lady replies that it is. Her companion claims he's 80% confident of their success, and nothing bad has happened yet. Kate asks, what needs to be done? 100%. If he's talking about 80% now. Edwin asks why she's so worried, considering he's right there with her, a perfect example. The main character thinks how confident he is, but at that very moment, someone turns to Edwin and says they haven't seen each other in a while. Kate realizes there really is no time to rest, and wonders who it is this time. The guy talking to the prince claims that, although they had talked about his arrival, he didn't think he would actually be there. He also wonders if this is his rumored fiancée. The prince replies, yes, after which his interlocutor asks if that's really true. He knew the boy had distinctive taste, of course, but never thought it would be that distinctive. Edwin then turns to George, and he tells him to shut up because he didn't hear any politeness in his words. George is a little surprised, and the prince insists that he doesn't know whether it's due to a lack of education or stupidity, but who gave him the right to judge his choices? George tells Edwin that it was just a joke, and they haven't seen each other for so long, so why does he immediately react like that to the main characters? He suggests that he take his hands off, because if the person didn't get his joke, then what's the point? The guy also extends his hand to his fiancée and asks if this is true. He also tells the guy to look as his fiancée is also uncomfortable, and he was glad to see her, but he wouldn't like to hear such jokes in the future. Afterwards, they leave, and the prince says they need to go before their stupidity spreads to them. The main character then turns to Mr. Edwin and asks if that wasn't his friend. The boy replies that they only met a few times at the Royal Academy, and that he never really grew up in those days. When the main character wants to say something else, the prince claims that he was either worried about her or that he was hurt by their relationship, but it was necessary to dispel his misconception, and Kate asks what he was talking about. The guy claims it would be good to put an end to his illusions, and in general, he had no manners at all. He was the same way at the academy, and he would pass off insults as jokes, after which the main character tells him to stop, but he just keeps going. Kate wonders if he was really that worried about her, after which she claims that now she understands him, and the prince asks if he said something funny, and he just hates talkative idiots like those from that studio. But at the same moment, someone else addresses Prince Edwin, and the main character thinks who else it is, but when she sees the blonde hair and face of this guy, he wonders if this is the same library patron. Edwin immediately turns to Kate. But when he's about to take her hand, the blonde man immediately grabs the guy and says how annoying it all is, because if he's visiting the palace, he should let him know too. He was planning to come to print, but as soon as he heard rumors of his arrival, he's so busy and sad. Edwin says that it is clear and that he will notify in advance from now on. But at that very moment, the blonde looks at him seriously, after which he grabs the guy by the cheek. And then with a smile on his face, he claims that Master Edwin's cheeks are so soft, Edwin claims there are too many extra eyes there, and turns once again to Archduke Eyvind. The protagonist realizes who this man is. The young man turns to Milady and claims they recently met in the library. He also asks if she remembers his story about the cat. He's so sorry the lady had to leave then. He hasn't even introduced himself yet. After which the guy claims his name is Eyvind Windsor. The lady understands that he is an archduke, as well as the chairman of the noble council, and third in line to the throne. The girl immediately introduces herself, and the guy asks if this means she's the Marquis Gerald's daughter, and he didn't expect to see her at the palace. The guy also claims the lady has come from far away, but at the same moment, someone else suggests they pretend they don't know each other. It turns out it's Edwin, and the guy asks if at his age people don't forget old things, but he was the one who sent him there. The boy replies that it was the only option, since Master Edwin needed a break at the time, and even for him, who had traveled all over the place, Marquis Gerald's territory seemed like a unique place. Considering the current situation, his decision was the right one. After all, Mr. Edwin met his love there, after which the boy cries out that Miss Leah is with him. He also tells Mr. Edwin that he thought he wasn't interested in girls. After which the boy claims that it doesn't matter to him who Mr. Edwin loves. Well, he was simply cut off from the whole world, and he didn't even have a loved one, so he and Leah tried to get to the bottom of the truth, and then they decided that Mr. Edwin was not interested in girls. But at that very moment, the guy grabbed his interlocutor by the face and screamed, "What kind of nonsense is he talking about?" Because he didn't want to marry the first woman he met. And since he's already said everything, he should go away and never say anything like that again. The blonde insists he's known Mr. Edwin since he was in diapers, and surely he won't tell him anything. The main character realizes she's experiencing a kind of déjà vu, as if she's just met the butler, but it seems Edwin can't be stopped. At that very moment, someone else addresses the lady. It turns out it's the prince's younger sister, and the little girl claims she's finally found Kate. The main character says they've finally met, and the little girl immediately hugs her and says yes, she's so happy to see her again, even though they only saw each other recently. At that moment, Edwin approaches them and claims he just walked away. The little girl then tells how Eyvind wouldn't let go and squeezed her cheeks. The main character says what a little bunny he is, and that she should have run while he was distracted by them. The main character then asks how Miss Urian can be so soft and cute, and the little girl claims that someone was looking for Kate, so she wanted to take her personally, and the girl asks if someone was really looking for her. The little girl replies that yes, and the woman said she was from her family. Kate realizes that this can't be true, and doesn't believe any of them were looking for her. But then the girl sees Rosalina. Her sister claims they haven't seen each other in a while. After all, she understood everything when she saw her at the banquet with the prince. Had she really learned to flirt with guys, or does the prince have no taste at all? After which, the woman greets Prince Edwin and claims to be pleased to meet him. She is also Kate's older sister, and her name is Rosaline. The guy then says he remembered, and the lady asks what he's talking about. Her interlocutor claims that it seems Kate wouldn't be so stupid as to not say goodbye before leaving, and it's funny that she dared to come and greet him. After this, the lady says, "What kind of jokes does Mr. Prince have?" And if the lady had left at least one letter before leaving, she was so worried about her. But the guy asks if she is joking, to which the woman replies that of course not. After which, her interlocutor claims that he will repeat it again, and says that the beta left because he had nothing to talk about with her. The girl then starts laughing and insists that the prince is a special person. The young man wonders if this will be so harmless, then tells her to forget it, and asks what the girl wanted. The lady claims that, as she said earlier, Kate disappeared, leaving only a letter, and the rest of the family are very worried about her. The lady, almost in tears, asserts that there is also this sudden engagement with the prince, and as her older sister, she would like to talk to the girl alone, so if he doesn't mind, then could she take Kate away for a while? The guy asks why she asked him for permission, then asks what Kate will do. The main character realizes that, frankly, she wants to refuse her sister, as this unexpected meeting is unpleasant for her, but then Edwin will go instead. However, she no longer wants to run away from her problems, so she tells the gentleman she'll go talk to Rosalind. Her sister then asserts that Kate is a smart woman, after which the girl tells the prince that she'll take the lady from him for a while, and the guy wonders what she's up to. A little while later, the main character and her sister leave the ballroom, and when the girl closes the door, she remarks that it seems Kate Gerald is very pleased with her engagement to the prince. The main character suggests that she get down to business, because Mr. Edwin is waiting, so she should hurry, but the girl asks if he is really waiting for Kate. But she is a disgrace to their family, so has the lady completely forgotten her last name? She has no idea how the girl managed to seduce the prince. Even though he may have difficult tastes, he'll surely tire of her timid and pessimistic nature sooner or later. So doesn't the girl herself realize he'll run away with his tail between his legs? Kate tells her sister that this is too much, and the girl asks what she is talking about, and now she understands why the lady refused to marry Ron Blanche. And also, does she really think that the prince loves her? The woman asks if Kate doesn't know that she can't be loved, and that she can't be loved because it was the misfortune of her mother to be plunged into eternal sleep at her birth. So how could such a wonderful person love her? The main character then recalls what she went through with the guy and claims that Rosalind truly knows nothing at all. Edwin isn't as wonderful a person as she thinks, and she probably isn't either. The girl turns to her sister and claims that she is a completely normal person, but at the same moment, Rosalind grabs a glass of wine and pours it on her interlocutor, after which she tells the girl not to make fun of her because she really is saying that she is a completely normal person. Let the lady know her place. The main character wants to turn to her sister, but she asks what else is there to discuss, and let her just think about who caused this whole situation. She's in the place she mentioned. Well, at that very moment, someone else appears behind the lady and claims that he is apologizing, after which he pours a glass of wine on her and claims that his hand accidentally twitched. You could say it's a huge scandal after all. How could a simple marquise's daughter treat a prince's fiancé like that? The guy also takes the main character's hand and says he hopes they never see her again. For their information, this is no joke. As the girl walks down the hallway with the prince, she thanks him and claims he had to help her again. The guy says, "Well, who's talking?" And when the girl asks what he's talking about, the guy suggests she forget it, saying she needs to go as exactly 30 minutes have already passed. The heroine smiles and replies, "Yes." A short time later, they find themselves outside, and the lady claims the entire sky is covered in stars. At that very moment, she sneezes, and the prince immediately takes off his cloak, claiming there are two ways to look at people. The main character asks which ones, and her interlocutor claims that, with some, he looks at the real her, and with others, he looks straight into her soul, and he says that two of them are more important. That's why you can't judge people only by their appearance. And this is what his mother told him, after which the girl claims that she understands. Mom said nice words to him, but the guy claims that this is not what he meant, and that she has both qualities in abundance, because she is quite beautiful. But the guy cannot utter the last word normally, after which he tells the lady to forget about it. Kate wonders if this is really what she thinks, and it looks like Edwin, after which the lady asks what he said about the guy, saying that nothing, and let her just forget about it. But in any case, who invited her sister to the palace. And the lady spent so much time getting ready, but in the end, everything was ruined. The main character, meanwhile, recalls how he wiped her tears with a handkerchief, then asserts that what's inside is more important than what's outside. Her interlocutor asks if she's joking, to which the lady replies no. Edwin suggests she go back anyway, as her clothes are wet and it's cold there. The protagonist is immediately surprised, and then tells Mr. Edwin that the ghost of His Majesty, the former king, is there. The boy then asks if he's in that direction, and insists that, as he didn't say he's arrived at the palace, the young man also asks what he meant, after which the man turns to the castle and looks into one of the rooms. Edwin asks my lady what is there, and the girl claims that he simply remained silent and only looked in that direction, after which the lady points to the place where he was looking. The boy is surprised by this and claims that this is his mother's room. Leah Arthur Windsor is the widow of the late king and the wife of the current one. The main character wonders how much she knows about her and realizes that she only knows what Ron told her. Someone claimed that this was a woman who was blinded by power, and she only got into trouble when she immediately married her late husband's brother, and she was definitely the first to seduce their wise king. Kate understands that these are just rumors, but she too once succumbed to them. A short time later, the queen arrives at the palace and says they haven't seen each other for a long time. Someone present claims that Her Majesty must be very busy with state affairs, and she apologizes to Lady Leah for not being able to greet her, after which the woman approaches Edwin and says that he is her sweet kitten, and also asks if he chewed well. The woman also says she's missed him so much, and then wonders if he won't even answer, even though it upsets her so much, and he was well received at the palace. The woman also looks at the main character and asks if she's the bride. Kate immediately bows and replies that this is true, and that she is also pleased to meet Her Majesty. The girl introduces herself and understands that the most important thing is to remain calm. The woman says that Edwin now has a fiancé, and it seems like only yesterday she and Ivan were taking care of him. Leah also takes the girl by the hand and asks if she knows what word Edwin says most readily. The main character doesn't even know what to answer, and wonders if this is some kind of test, and why such a sudden question. But then the lady realizes she needs to calm down and not panic, after which the lady recalls all the guy's conversations and claims that the word go away meant go away. At that moment, the lady realizes what she said, and an awkward silence falls between them. The girl immediately cries out with apologies, telling Her Majesty that she simply misspoke, as she had no intention of offending Lord Edwin. The woman's only response was to laugh and insist that the lady was perfect for Edwin. Although he never said it to her, he constantly told Jurian. But that was long ago, after which the woman told Miss Kate that it was a good answer. She feared her son would spend his whole life alone. But now that she's seen his fiancé, her heart feels lighter, and all her anxiety seems to have vanished. Her Majesty also asks the girl if she can ask her one more question and inquires about why the lady loves Edwin. The main character ponders this, recalling all the moments they spent together. The lady realizes she couldn't help but fall in love with him ever since she saw his eyes staring at her. Perhaps she'd simply forgotten about anyone for so long, and that's what she thought. But it was his pearl-black eyes that drew her. The girl claims that Mr. Edwin is always rude to others. Even his soft tone doesn't seem friendly. But even so, she senses warmth in his words and appreciates how he continues to care, even though he seems indifferent. The woman then, with a smile on her face, asserts that she even envies them, and that her son cares so much for the lady. The main character wonders if this is really true, and the woman wonders if she didn't know since Edwin never contacted her after his departure and simply ignored all her letters. But the woman insists he has a good relationship with the princess, and Her Majesty claims that Urian didn't know this either. And frankly, he's acting this way because he hates her new husband. The main character asks what she's talking about, and the guy suggests they stop chatting. The queen then asks if she can't even talk to his fiancé anymore. The guy insists that she's been really busy lately, so there's no point in wasting your time on this. He also turns to Kate and tells her he needs to talk to the queen and that it's time for her to go. The lady then turns to Mr. Edwin and asks if he's okay, to which the guy replies that everything is fine, and then suggests she go. A short time later, the main character is already walking down the street, wondering if everything will be okay with Edwin. This time he pulled his hand away, and according to Edwin, the prom queen is a good person. But the girl wonders if the rumors were true. At that moment, someone else addresses Lady Kate. When the girl turns around, she sees Ron there, and the guy says it's really her. He also claims he accidentally saw a lady passing by and decided to follow her. Their main character asks if it's really Ron. An awkward silence falls between them, since the guy is human. He tried so hard to propose, but the lady turned him down. Kate understands she's a little awkward, but he just came to say hello, after which the lady says they haven't seen each other in a while and is glad to see him. The lady then wants to say goodbye, but her interlocutor grabs her hand. He then asks the lady to wait and claims that he's been thinking about many things since she left and that he truly feels sorry for her, so he's trying to ease her loneliness. But the main character tells him to let her go, after which the young man apologizes. He also claims that rumors have been circulating since her arrival at the palace, that the lady is the fiancée of Mr. Edwin, who returned there for the first time in 2 years, after which the girl insists it's true, because thanks to him she's not alone. Ron wonders why the lady didn't tell him about this, and if she had. But the main character claims it's because she wasn't even thinking about him. After all, why did she need to tell him anything? The guy then says, "That's how it is." And the main character insists that she also doesn't want rumors to spread, that she's cheating on her husband with another man. So it's time for her to go. And the next time they meet, she suggests pretending they don't know each other, and the guy says that since that's the case, he can ask her something. The main character responds by pushing the chip, and the guy asks, "Does she truly love Mr. Edwin?" After which the protagonist wants to respond, but her interlocutor replies that no, and everything is fine since he asked a very tactless question. After this, he says he has to go since he's only gotten more confused, and then the young man apologizes. As he continues on, all he can think about is Edwin Arthur Windsor. Kate realizes the man has left, after which she remembers his question and realizes it's time to make sure of her feelings. A short time later, the lady is leaning against one of the columns, wondering what to do. She seems lost, but she was just walking from the garden. And is she really suffering from topographical insanity? It seems the girl is so used to walking with Edwin that she's forgotten the layout of the rooms, so she should be more careful next time. The girl realizes she could certainly ask someone for directions, but there's no one there, and it seems she needs to go that way. But when she turns the corner, she sees the prince standing before her and asks if that's really Mr. Edwin. And the guy then asks why she's there, and the lady replies that she's just a little lost, but then notices something under Edwin's eye. Marin then asks why she's looking at him like that, and then turns around. The video's main character asks about the beautiful marks on his eyes. Could it be that the conversation with the queen didn't go so well? Her interlocutor insists that this isn't anything to worry about and wonders if the lady has been wandering around all this time. She hasn't met anyone, eaten anything, or touched anything. Kate immediately exclaims that everything is fine and she's fine. But at that very moment, she interrupts and takes her hand away from him, and the guy immediately asks what that means. A little while later, he asks if she's actually seen that tailor. The guy also insists that a crybaby lady really shouldn't be left alone even for a minute. But the lady insists nothing of the sort happened. They were just chatting for a bit. After which her interlocutor sighs and claims it's like leaving a child on the edge of a cliff. The young man also says, "Okay," and suggests they return to the room. A little while later, they're heading down the hallway, and the main character realizes she's gotten hungry while she was walking, so she wonders if there's dinner tonight. However, she also says it's a little embarrassing, but at that moment, the guy stops her. He also whispers to the lady not to say anything, and when the girl tries to ask what happened, she suddenly sees her sister Edwin, asks if she saw her, and the lady replies, yes, and wonders why Rosalina hasn't returned to the estate, but is wandering around there. The main character wonders if she really wants to harm Edwin and her, and the guy insists that not only is that suspicious, but he doesn't yet know the motive behind it. Kate realizes that perhaps because of her, Edwin has made even more enemies. Whatever her sister's reason, her very presence there is unsettling, and the lady wonders what she's up to. But at that moment, the prince tells the girl to calm down, because nothing has happened yet, and they'll solve problems as they arise. One day, someone told him they could handle everything together, after which the guy enters one of the rooms, and the lady replies, yes. A little while later, evening has fallen, and the main character realizes they've searched everywhere and still haven't found anything. They've probably been there for an hour, or maybe the girl really hasn't done anything. Then the main character glances at one of the dressers and sees a letter there. The prince asks if she's found something, and the girl insists it's definitely for Rosalina. Her interlocutor wonders if someone was planning to give it to her spoiled sister, to which the girl replies that, who knows, maybe Rosalina came there for it. Edwin says it looks suspicious, and wonders how the lady found him, since he'd looked everywhere, but didn't see him. Kate insists it's just a habit, since when she and Rosalina argued as children, she'd hide under the bed. So it's safe to say she'd gotten into the habit of looking down, and that's how she noticed him. That only happened at home. The guy is silent for a bit after that, insisting that Richard should be asked to fill the space under the bed. Their main character asks him what he's talking about, to which her interlocutor replies that nothing, then hands the letter to the lady and invites her to read it. It asks if she too is looking at that high sky and the reddened maple leaves that look so beautiful against it. How much longer will the lady pretend she knows nothing? After the failed meeting, he also thought his feelings had faded, but they are still as strong. The protagonist, her hands shaking, looks at the lines and recalls her past life where she was betrothed to Ron. But at the end of the letter, she sees the prince's first and last name, after which the main character falls to her knees, and her interlocutor asks if she's okay, and the girl asks how that could be. She must have misunderstood. Meanwhile, the prince suggests the lady try to explain everything calmly, and the girl realizes that if he had been frank, then she would have been wrong. It probably wouldn't have been so painful. Edwin turns to Kate and asks what happened, but when she doesn't answer, he asks if she can't tell him. He also insists that he tells her everything, so why was she always interested in him? And he didn't even ask her anything. Kate turns to Mr. Edwin, and the guy tells him he's not interested and that she shouldn't think anything of it. She's just listened to him so many times. It would be fair to switch places. The main character breaks down in tears, and the guy suggests they talk later. He doesn't like tears after all. But at that very moment, someone grabs him by the clothes and suggests he stay where he is, telling him she'll tell him everything. The girl doesn't know how long they talked sitting on the floor, but she thinks it was a long time, and the girl tells him she married Ron after falling into Edwin's eternal sleep. At first, everything was fine, but then her husband became suddenly cold towards her, although outwardly nothing had changed, and then she found a letter in which Ron confessed his love to Rosalind, and this turned her life into a real nightmare. And that day, in a dream, she saw Edwin's eyes, which were asking for help. She woke up in the past, after which the guy said it was clear, and asked if the lady was saying she saw him in a dream. He then asked if she had any regrets now, and if she missed her past with the tailor. The main character recalls her life with Ron, and realizes that she was certainly happy, and now she understands that she should have asked him first. However, when the girl looks at Edwin, she asserts that she has no regrets. Although she misses him, she doesn't want to go back, because the time spent with Edwin was precious to her. Even a second spent with him is more important to her than anything else. Afterward, the guy smiles and asks where she learned such words and whether she was flirting with someone at the cafe. The girl immediately insists that it's not true, as she never said anything like that to anyone. Edwin argues that since she was honest with him, he should do something in return, after which he kisses her forehead, causing her to blush and thank him. A short time later, they burn the letter, and the prince asserts that it's normal for the lady to be confused. Kate asks what part of the story he's referring to, and her interlocutor insists that her words suggest the tailor thought she was helpless. Such terrible words will torment a person and lower their self-esteem, and if she always believes she's incapable of anything, she'll never be able to love herself. The guy also wants to know what their relationship was like after the wedding, as her story hinted at how no one could love someone so ugly, so it's no wonder she thought he was cheating on her. But the girl claims she never had such thoughts, and the guy claims it was hard to grasp the meaning. He also suggests thinking about the end and asks why the lady never considered that he could cheat on her, the main character. Meanwhile, recalls how he told the others to leave, and then asserts that she believes he's not that kind of person. The guy asserts that he understands that a person's actions are no less important. But then he asks if she's remembered something strange, after which the lady merely smiles and insists she meant to say he's very caring. But the guy merely says the crybaby lady's face is swollen and asks if she wants to go wash her face. After all, that would definitely make her feel better, after which he throws the girl out. She realizes he seems embarrassed by her words. He looks like a kitten with its claws out. The girl also claims she's going to take a bath. But at that very moment, she hears Richard's voice, and the man asks where Lady Kate went. The boy replies that she went to take a bath, after which the butler asks if they've really gone that far. But the prince exclaims, "What on earth was he thinking?" The butler replies that he was just joking, and besides, Master Edwin didn't go with the lady. But the boy exclaims, "What is he thinking? It's all wrong." The man then places his hand on his master's shoulder and insists that the engagement is a step toward maturity, and it's okay if he wants to speed it up. He understands everything, and now his responsibilities also include preparation. The main character finally breaks down and opens the door, shouting for him to stop because everything was wrong. After Richard left, they talked for a long time about things they couldn't talk about before, not just about Ronnie. There was a conversation about what to do with the family after their mother's eternal sleep, and also about what to do with Rosalind. The prince claimed that the more he thought about it, the more disgusted he became, and he was referring to his older sister Kate. She'd be the only one who would have found the letter and hidden it because of a misunderstanding. But the sheer audacity of writing a letter about liking someone was a clever but vile act. Eyvind also wonders if the lady doesn't want to change the situation. He may have burned the letter, but the envelope remains. Even if it were tomorrow, before the lady leaves, he could punish her if she wants. She will pay for insulting the royal family, but the main character replies that she doesn't want that, and it would be right for her. If only Rosalind were punished for tormenting her. Right now, she wants to focus on Edwin's situation. It might be hard to let the real culprit go after he did nothing, but as long as they have evidence, they can charge Rosalind later. The guy, all embarrassed, then insisted it was both sweet and silly, since the lady was completely unaware of anything. After that, Edwin began to treat her kindly, but it only lasted a moment, and even then it felt different. A little while later, the main character is already sitting in the garden with a cup of tea, and someone shouts at the lady and also asks whether, despite the fact that there is someone in front of her, the lady is thinking about something, after which the main character apologizes and asks if Princess Urien spoke to her. The little girl asks if she was even listening, and the main character claims she had something else on her mind and asks if she could explain it all again. The girl says that just as she asked Kate, she'll quickly explain again, and she mentioned rumors of a ghost. Late in the evening, when the moon is shining, a ghost appears within the city walls, and the main character thinks that this cannot be, after which she asks if there is really a ghost there, to which the little girl replies that there is, and they say that this ghost looks like their late father. The girl also wonders if this is really their father. She wants to see him with her own eyes, but she doesn't even know if she'll be able to. The main character wonders how this is possible, considering she can't approach Edwin right now. But perhaps it has something to do with his situation. However, the girl understands that, firstly, it is certainly not the same, but what if the rules have changed again and again? What should she do if the guy again falls into eternal sleep? But it would be strange to continue to progress, if then she had to start all over again. The little girl insists she's terrified to go alone, and frankly, if it really is her father, she'll be the one. But at the same moment, the main character tells the lady not to worry because she'll be going with her, and the little girl asks if she's serious. The girl immediately hugs Kate and claims she really is an angel, and the protagonist understands that anyone looking at this will think the princess is an angel. The little girl then turns to Kate and asks if it's true that she likes her older brother, and the protagonist replies that, of course, and she really does like him. Then the little girl asks if the lady should meet that guy again, and the main character asks what she's talking about. The little girl claims she saw him, and when her mother returned, she woke up late and took a shortcut that only she knew about. The girl then wondered what she should do. What if she was late and couldn't even meet her mother? She had even prepared a gift, and she should be more attentive. Urian understood that she would soon be an adult, so how long could she continue to behave like this? But when the lady continued on into the garden, she saw Kate talking to a blonde man. The girl claims she couldn't overhear them and knew she should leave, but she thought the blonde man was heading her way. However, his expression as he passed her was a little frightening. The main character realizes she was talking about her meeting with Ron and tells the little girl not to worry as they have no reason to meet. The girl says that even if that were the case, it would be useful to be a little more careful. Kate replies that she's already very careful, so there's no need to worry about her too much. But the little girl claims it's hard to even predict what someone with that expression will do. The main character understands that the princess probably has a lot to do, but she can't believe she's growing so fast. After that, Kate tells the little girl not to worry, as she promises to be careful. A short time later, the protagonist wakes up and remembers the princess's words about wanting to meet at midnight, after which she told the lady not to be late. Kate also looks at Edwin and realizes he looks tired, so she shouldn't wake him. The girl puts on a cape and takes a candle in her hands, after which she is about to go out into the corridor, but at that moment, someone comes up to her from behind and asks where the lady is in such a hurry. The guy also approaches the lady's ear and claims that she seems to want to run away. The main character is shocked, unsure of what to say, and wondering what excuse to come up with. Edwin tells her not to worry, because he knows the lady isn't the type to run away after going so far. But didn't he tell her she shouldn't be wandering around alone like that? And was she really that desperate to get into trouble? The girl immediately apologizes for promising to meet the princess, and the guy asks if that's really true, after which the main character explains what happened. The lady claims there were rumors, so Princess Jurian and she decided to meet at midnight. The boy then asks if the lady really planned to keep him in the dark, and the girl claims they initially simply decided to check if the rumors were true, since he couldn't see them. Edwin says that's true, but still 2 women alone in the middle of the night, and did she even consider it dangerous? The main character looks at him with a bit of surprise, and the guy asks what the expression on her face is, to which she replies, "Nothing." He also realizes he'd probably be angry if she told him now that he'd acted like a gentleman. Edwin says they'll go together anyway, since he was planning to clear up the rumors, so now's the perfect time. A little while later, they're heading down the hallway, and the main character asks him if he didn't know about the rumors, to which he replies that he has ears too, and didn't come there to chill. Kate asks what he's thinking and why. Until now, he has not shown himself to anyone except them, and he has never appeared to, which the guy replies that, who knows, after which he asks why only he cannot see him. When all this time he'd seen him, the guy also says how funny it is. But then the main character claims that they've arrived and that they'll reach the city walls by this ladder, so she suggests they wait for Urian there. A little while later, the girl approaches and sees Kate, but then she also sees her brother, who claims the girl is late. The little girl insists she arrived on time and wonders if this lady really asked him to go with her, to which the main character replies that it's not so. Kate also whispers in the girl's ear that he went because he was worried about the baby, and she asks if that's true, insisting that it doesn't suit him at all. The prince, meanwhile, simply tells them both to follow him. A little while later, the guy insists that they need to blow out the candles there to avoid being caught, so let them be careful and not get lost. When they approach the knight's post, They hear one of them claim that this is what he was talking about. Another asks if it really appeared this evening too, but his interlocutor asks why they're so worried about it. Either way, this guy is lying. The red-haired boy replies that no, and they're the first guys on this shift, so they don't know. But it's true. One of them smiling says, of course. But at that very moment, one of the knights sees this ghost causing him to collapse and screaming for them to look. The deceased king is there, and it's his ghost. The others also scream in horror, and the prince asks if he's really here, to which the main character replies, yes. And she barely sees him, and the boy claims he can't see anything at all. The little girl wonders if her brother really can't see him, and he starts crying. Then the ghost moves on, and one of the knights asks where he's going to, which the other replies he doesn't know. One of them screams at the others to stay away from him, as they will be cursed if they approach him. They also say how stupid this king is, for he wanders the world of the living even after he fell into eternal sleep. The main character claims he's heading that way, but when she turns her attention to the princess, she asks if the girl is okay. The little girl insists it really is her father, then asks if he's wandering this world because he's hurt. Even after falling into eternal sleep, he cannot find peace. Afterwards, the little girl wipes away her tears and offers to follow him, to which the other two nod. When they reach the street, Edwin asks the lady if she can see where he is, to which the girl replies, no, that she can't see anything. But he was definitely there a moment ago, and the girl wonders where exactly he went. But at that very moment, the protagonist sees a red liquid in front of her and wonders if that's really the forest. The protagonist also realizes she's wondering why she was thinking about the story the man wrote and what the wolf was doing in it. The lady understands that this happened after the meat that the lion put aside was stolen, and when the main character looks into the bushes, she realizes that there is a dagger and a cat that lies lifeless on the ground, after which the girl is completely shocked. Meanwhile, the little girl asks what the sound is, and it's coming from Kate's direction. She then invites her brother to come with her. When they get closer, the boy tells the little girl to turn away. The main character claims the cat is no longer alive, but wonders who did such a bad thing. Edwin says it's late, then suggests they go back. A short time later, they enter the room, and the main character asks, what about Princess Jurian? Her interlocutor claims they had a pleasant conversation, and perhaps the girl noticed and didn't ask too many questions. The main character claims she understood, then falls silent for a moment, and the guy asks if she asked about the reason and why others can see the spirit. Kate asks what the reason is, and her interlocutor claims that you are the cat immersed in eternal sleep with whom they met. It seems that a little time has passed since she fell into a crippled sleep, but there was a red liquid there, and perhaps the criminal tormented the cat for a long time in this place. The main character then asks if this is really what she thinks, and the guy insists that it is, and perhaps his father wanted to warn him. The place appears abandoned, and thanks to the spread of rumors about the ghost, it has attracted the attention of many people, so the criminal cannot continue his crimes. The main character asks if he knows the story she told him, and if it's the same one Grand Duke Avon told her. He asks if she's talking about the cat story, and the girl asks if he could have done it and been the instigator. The prince claims he's unsure, but then realizes what he was thinking about when he saw this scene before 10 times have already passed, and after falling into a crippling sleep 9 times, he's now experiencing his 10th life. With each cycle of time's repetition, he endlessly wondered who had put him into eternal sleep, and the prime suspects were Benson and Avond. Until now, there hadn't been a single situation in which Avond had been actively involved, but as soon as the boy entered the palace, it happened, and it couldn't be a coincidence. The fact that Ivan told Kate the story about the cat, and even more so the cat is involved in the case. His father tried to tell him about all of which points to Ivan, but the boy also wonders why and for what reason he would do this. When he was young, he didn't demonstrate a strong desire for wealth. The boy also recalls how Avon told the boy that the cookies looked delicious and asked if he would give him some. The boy insisted that the Grand Duke had a lot of money, so wouldn't he be ashamed to take sweets from a child, to which the boy merely replied that he didn't have much. But his uncle was different. He was very ambitious and greedy, and the young man knew he always wanted to take his father's place. Even then, the reason he didn't ask him the question or rather couldn't ask it, was because he stroked his head with his large hand. All his sadness over his father's disappearance melted away like snow, and even the thought of asking if he would put him into eternal sleep no longer crossed his mind. The boy also thinks that if he had asked that question without hesitation, he would have gone to his father and told him that his uncle had torn up his portrait. Maybe something would have changed. But then the boy realizes that now he's not thinking about regretting not telling his father. After which, the young man continues to insist that he's such a fool. He knew no one would help a prince like himself, who had nothing, so being so upset would put not only his life but Kate's as well. He also claims he hoped his uncle wouldn't commit a crime, like a powerless fool. The main character claims that everything is wrong, and frankly, she thought of him as a dominant and suffocating personality. But if this person is dear to him, then he will be dear to her too, and she already said so. The guy replies that this is true, and she already said so, but the question hasn't been answered yet. The girl says that now that there's a plethora of suspicious evidence on both sides, everything has become even more confusing. But then the two start laughing, and the guy claims that until now, he only suspected Benson and had not fully considered Irwin. Now he suggests studying the book that the lady mentioned. The next morning, the guy asks the girl if he'd told her about this before, and she asks what it was about. The young man claims his uncle asked him to act in a play, and Kate choked, then apologized, claiming it was unexpected. The guy insists this hasn't been confirmed yet, and her mother's birthday is coming soon. He also asked the lady to act in a play with him. Their leading lady is shocked, wondering if she'll really have to act in the play. The guy, however, insists there's something more important. The play's Succession. After all, it has the same name as his father's favorite book, after which the main character falls out of her chair, and her interlocutor starts laughing and asks if her reaction isn't perfect. Kate asks if he's worried or just laughing. This is a serious issue, because how can anyone laugh at something like this? Her interlocutor insists it's definitely serious. The play is called the same as his father's favorite book, and besides, not only is he in it, but so is the lady. This play was created by Grand Duke Eyvind, and the main character asks if that's really true. The young man replies that it is, and it's definitely best to refuse. A play proposed by his uncle and sponsored by the Grand Duke. Accepting it would be like walking into a snake's mouth, but the main character asks if he refused out of nowhere. Why is he telling her about it? The young man claims the lady is observant, and he tells her this because he wants to ask her about something, and she wonders if he's really talking about her opinion. Edwin insists that the Grand Duke's sponsorship of the production is a closely guarded secret, and maybe even his uncle doesn't know. The main character asks how he found out about the guy. Then he claims that, as he said earlier, he did not come there to remain silent, and he is not completely reliable, but he thinks that he found a source of information, so he left it to him to study the history of Eddie the cat. Perhaps they could get a clue that would corner the Grand Duke and capture him, but in the end they didn't succeed. When they dug up dirt on people, they discovered that no one was clean. He somehow was spotless. The investigation he conducted on the lady was the same, and in the end, they had no physical evidence. Simply put, they're in a situation where there are no other avenues of investigation, so the young man suggests using a play to poke them. The main character asks what it means, and the young man claims that if you poke the snake's tail, a head will appear. Grand Duke Eyvind sponsored the play, and Uncle Benson suggested it to him, and both will come to see it. It's a kind of message delivery through the play, and they'll allow the true culprit to become aroused and reveal their identity. The main character asks if he's really saying they'll find the culprit by slightly altering the play, to which the guys reply that it's true, and not such a blatant option. By changing the plot lines, the props, or even the hand holding him, they will change the meaning of the production. These two are both fans of plays, so they can immediately tell what he's doing. The main character then turns to Lord Edwin's. The guy asks if she doesn't like him too, which she replies that she doesn't, then insists that he's simply wonderful because she can help too. The truth is she's really bad at acting. The guy asks her if she's only just realizing it, and if he was perfect from the start. Kate realizes he truly has good self-esteem. She even feels a sense of déjà vu. The young man realized he thought he'd praised himself too freely. Afterward, they discussed how to put the plan into action, and how they could simultaneously perform the play and convey the message. A little while later, The guy claimed that everything was approximately finished, and there were words about how he already knew that they wanted to put him into eternal sleep. But he was a prince without style, not worthy of this, and he had no claims to the throne or power. Therefore, he asked to be allowed to live in the village until the end of his days. The main character wonders if this appeal will work, but her interlocutor claims he hopes he'll get through them, and that this is just the plot of the play. The true goal of this play is to see who will be more aroused after seeing the message. If they can identify the culprit and resolve the matter with a simple conversation, that would be the icing on the cake. The protagonist asserts he's right, but then points to one of the lines and asks what it means. After all, she doesn't think that this language is used in their country, so she doesn't know what he wrote. The guy is silent for a while in response to this, after which he claims that she doesn't need to know, and he just wrote it down because it came to his mind. At that moment, their main character looks at him expecting an explanation. The guy claims that it seems that the lady is usually not interested in books, to which she replies that nothing of the sort. And then the young man invites her to look for herself, and also claims that enough discussion, because they will talk about it later. Kate realized that after this she became uneasy about Edwin's words, so she went to the library to look up the phrase. Picking up one of the books, she realized she was absolutely certain she'd seen it somewhere before, and then she realized it was the last sentence in the novel From Another Kingdom. The meaning lies in sharing a fleeting moment with your beloved and spending eternity together. This story is about a man who swore his love to a goddess. The protagonist understands that the prince told her not to misunderstand him, but she continues to expect misunderstanding. Kate is sure he meant it differently, but this is Edwin after all, and even living in the village for the rest of her days is too much, so she must tell him she can help. The girl also approaches the door and realizes she almost missed the room while thinking about something else, and wonders if her coordination is really that bad. But right now, it's better to focus on urgent matters, after which the lady apologizes and confirms. She wants to talk about the props needed for the play in 15 days. But when the lady looks at the people inside, she's a little surprised to see the Grand Duke and the tailor there. The protagonist wonders why they're together, then realizes she should first notify Edwin. But at the same moment, she hears Ron telling the Grand Duke that he will assume that he did not hear these words. The guy then turns and leaves, while the main character watches. The Duke turns to Lady Kate and says it was a pleasure meeting her there, and also that they hadn't seen each other for a long time, so she should close the door and come in. The main character is a little nervous, and also tells the Grand Duke that they haven't seen each other for a long time, and the guy says that it is not necessary to address him so formally, because she can simply call him by his first name. The young man says that the lady is Lord Edwin's fiancée, so she's like a daughter to him. The Duke also asks what brought her to such a place, and whether she wanted to ask for something. Kate simply wonders if the butler is in the wrong place, to which the young man replies that unfortunately the place has been empty for some time. He also came there because he wanted to tell him something, and the girl insists that she understands and will return later. Her interlocutor says that if the task is urgent, she should tell him and he will pass it on, but the girl replies that there is nothing urgent. She also recalls the prince's words about making sure that in the future there would be no circumstances in which she would be left alone with Duke Avend. The guy at this time claims that it seems the lady cannot share the assignment and asks what about leaving a note, and it seems she has done this before. This place is far from the main part. Wouldn't it be inconvenient to return again? And the girl understands that she is definitely not sure that she should return alone. At this time, the main character walks around the Duke and keeps her distance from him, and also screams that he shouldn't look, at which the guy replies that he does, and suggests that she not worry. The lady also begins to write down everything that she had to convey to the butler, and realizes that she has now written down everything she wanted to discuss. The girl also understands that now she needs to leave quickly, but when she puts her hand on the sofa, she realizes that there is a sword hilt there. At that moment, the blonde man appears next to the lady and asks if this sword isn't magnificent. The main character immediately moves away from him, and the man with a smile on his face explains that the ball is encrusted with stones and that he bragged a lot about the effort he put into it, knowing it would be used by the royal family in a productions. The main character understands that if this is a play of the royal family, then this is the sword that will be used in it. A little while later, they are already rehearsing, and the guy claims that he is not afraid of falling into eternal sleep, and he is only sad that he will no longer be able to see the lady. After which, he falls to the floor and pretends to be dead. The main character watches this in shock, and her interlocutor asks if the lady has forgotten her words, and replies that nothing of the sort. At this time, the butler claims that the Lord's performance is magnificent, but he thought that he really had fallen into eternal sleep. After this, the guy asks why the butler is creating such a fuss around her, and it's simple. The main character understands that she knows for sure, and her heart sank because she thought that the guy really had fallen into eternal sleep. After deciding to act in the play, she went through the most difficult days of her life practicing the play and searching for information about the criminal. Arthur, played by Edwin, suddenly falls into eternal sleep at the beginning of the novel, and his lover Bella soon tries to follow him, which provokes him to become a spirit to stay with her.